Step into a world where the invisible becomes visible, where energy and consciousness merge into forms of pure light. Bodies of Light by Saint Germain is an open gateway to ancient knowledge, an invitation to discover the true nature of your being beyond the physical. Through his words, the mystery of the bodies of light is revealed, showing us how we can transcend the limitations of the body and achieve a vibrant existence filled with clarity and cosmic energy. This text is a journey toward awakening our divine essence, where light not only illuminates, but transforms. Prepare to expand your consciousness, release your energies, and uncover the hidden power in the light that resides within you. What you are about to hear may forever change the way you see the universe and your place in it. In the teachings of metaphysics and advanced spirituality, subtle bodies have been a key element in understanding the multidimensional nature of the human being. This work invites us to explore the different levels of our existence beyond the physical, delving into the emotional, mental, etheric, and spiritual bodies. Subtle bodies provides a detailed guide on how these bodies interact with our daily lives, influencing our emotions, thoughts, and spiritual states. Through studying these energetic bodies, we can learn to better understand ourselves, heal our deepest wounds, and elevate our consciousness to a higher level of existence. This audiobook aims not only to inform, but also to provide practical tools for self-discovery, balance, and harmonization of these bodies. Ultimately, the work is designed for those seeking greater knowledge about their own energy, the vibration of their being, and the path towards spiritual transcendence. It is important to note that Hispanic Audiobooks does not align with any particular political stance or religious belief. Our goal is to present a variety of spiritual and philosophical topics for educational and recreational purposes, always promoting respect and freedom of thought. By sharing this material, we hope to open a window to the possibilities of personal evolution and self-discovery. May this book serve as a powerful tool on your journey toward understanding the subtler aspects of your being. When a body has been fully active and shortly afterward lies before you as a so-called corpse, it means something has left that physical structure, doesn't it? What animated that physical body and gave it strength, intelligence, and power to act came through the life current. It was life acting within that physical form. But once life departs, the body becomes utterly useless. No human being on earth can deny this. Therefore, dear student, if it was the power of life animating and acting within that human form, it means every human being is life in action. Now you will understand that the power of energy flows through your body throughout your life. You can realize the unlimited energy and power you use when you stumble in the dark, clench your jaws, or digest food. But know that you are using only about 10% of the power and energy you are privileged to use. You will then comprehend why you haven't achieved greater perfection and better results in your activities and world. Understanding this, you will see that what makes your heart beat is your authority, your life, the greatest intelligence you can call into action from the great presence of life above you. Thus, you will realize that absolutely nothing in the wide world can limit you except yourself. The electronic body. The mighty I Am presence dwells within the white fire body, which is a condensation of light. The flame arises from the heart of God, the great consciousness of life in the universe, the great central sun. When the mighty I Am presence in you desired to emerge as an individualized focus of conscious mastery and use the creative words I am, its first individual activity was the formation of the flame. You, as the individualized focus of the mighty I Am presence, began your dynamic life expression. The divine flame projected 2 rays into the great sea of pure electronic light. This luminous, intelligent substance became the robe, so to speak, of these rays of the mighty I Am presence. Each ray possessed all the attributes of deity, with no imperfection ever able to enter or register upon them. The individualized flame sent down into each ray a focal point or spark that formed a heart center, around which gathered and accumulated the substance of electronic light, thereby creating the electronic body. This eternal, perfect electronic body resides approximately 3 to 15 meters above the physical body of each individual, unless the individual is very backward or destructive, in which case that presence is much farther away. This is the Son and Son of God, because the electronic body of each individualized flame of God is a dazzling, radiant light of such intensity that human eyes can only glance at it for a fraction of a second. Through the worship of the divine flame and the purification of the personal self, the outer activity of mind and physical body, the vibratory frequency rises to a high and harmonious level, enabling one to clearly see the electronic body amidst the resplendent light of its surrounding force field. The physical body. The current atomic structure of the flesh is the densest form and the record of the outer mind's activity. In certain religious explanations, this electronic body is often referred to as the guardian angel. It is all this and much more when we truly understand it. Just as a child turns to its mother, the personal self should turn to this electronic body for the supply of all good things. All this is within the divine flame descending from the electronic body, where the tremendous power and intense light of the mighty I Am Presence are reduced to a degree that can function within the vibratory frequency of the physical world. The silver cord. From the heart center of the electronic body emanates a current of vital essence or liquid light, which penetrates the physical body through the pineal gland, filling the nerve channels. This liquid light circulates through the nerves just as blood circulates through the veins. It makes the heart beat, moves the muscles, and enables the body to walk or lift a hand. It is also the light that energizes the brain cells. This life current is known as the silver cord. In so-called death, the presence of God withdraws this liquid light current, and the flesh body disintegrates. The reason why the race continues to experience the so-called death is the waste caused by excessive emotionality, depleting this electronic light that should be retained within the brain and physical body to build cellular structure and empower the entire body. The causal body. Surrounding the electronic body, the individualized flame emanates rays of lesser intensity, forming an aura or force field, sometimes referred to as the causal body. Within it are deposited the results of all constructive efforts made during each incarnation and between incarnations. All electronic substance constructively used by the personal self through physical experience is also deposited in this body. Through this body, the divine flame can send forth a massive wave of its life essence. As the personality journeys through physical experience, the causal body becomes an ever-expanding sun, a self-sustained reservoir of ideas, love, wisdom, and unlimited power, flowing continuously as rays of love to the rest of the universe. This sun is, in reality, a deposit of energy and substance used constructively and accumulated through human experience, returning to the heights to become the glory of God's flame, which never loses its individual identity in the universe. Thus arises the perfect, joyous, beautiful, and unlimited activity of life and creation, ever expanding its perfection. I eagerly await the day and hour when I may draw back the veil of Maya, allowing you to behold the glorious colors of your causal body, and the rapid flow of that electronic light current you call the life stream. Then you will see, all at once, the power, momentum, and accumulated energy there, released with the beats of your heart. Thus you will see that I did not choose you in vain to help me in my efforts to free all imprisoned life. The higher mental body. Your higher mental body knows everything about perfection and is aware of all your needs. You can reflect on this carefully. When you start noticing that you can do certain things with great ease, don't hesitate. Take it calmly with majestic serenity and simply rejoice that your entire being overflows with happiness. If something begins to interfere and you cannot immediately cast it out, sit quietly for a few minutes, calm yourself, and seek the source so you can annihilate it instantly. I'm waiting for the opportunity to allow all students to bring back the memory of the work they are doing through the higher mental body. Since I asked them to lie down and set aside the outer body so that the inner work could continue, I assure you that the day they recall that memory, they will rejoice. They have no idea of the tremendous work they are doing through the higher mental body each night while their physical bodies sleep deeply. Believe me, it's no small thing, and I think it's not wise to delve into this just yet. As you'll see, I test patients severely, but not unnecessarily. If you feel a current flowing through your body, accept it as the great perfecting activity. Often, when you are in that particular calm attunement, the higher mental body discharges power to accomplish things that would otherwise take months. Remember, the higher mental body, acting from the presence of life, is an all-powerful intelligence and is not limited. As you invoke the presence to free and provide for you, it sends its powerful rays of light, which are directed intelligence to harmonize and govern conditions in the human plane, thus bringing you the provision and release from conditions that have troubled you. The higher mental body will not allow a greater power to flow if you are going to misuse it, because that would only cause imperfection. It won't permit that to continue or increase. It will only approve what you have accumulated. Feel now, please, that the higher mental body supplies energy to your body, to every organ in your body. Or do you not think about it unless something stops functioning? Simply accept it, as the higher mental body governs every organ of your body. Of course, if you were sufficiently harmonious, every organ would function perfectly. Think about it. My world is the world of complete freedom and the unconditional liberation of all faculties, forces, mastery, and powers of light from my higher mental body. The external mind must be kept constantly calm, and the external and internal wills must become one as attention is held on them with firm determination. The internal operation will be revealed more and more until you can consciously manipulate it. Affirm, I am the presence entering and revealing this activity in my external consciousness. Then the external mind will gain full internal activity and bring it into external activity. Don't think I'm speaking harshly. You well know I wouldn't do that. But you would be amazed if you could see how distracted the mind becomes, how little alert and agile it is. If you could observe yourself every moment, you'd notice when even a small feeling of irritation, discord, or confusion enters the mind, preventing it from acting as quickly and effectively as it could. What is needed is to prevent the mind from wandering and getting distracted by things it should not think about. The idle human mind will soon do this, and I've never seen anyone who could avoid it. This is why tasks and jobs requiring a certain amount of physical energy are wonderful for most people, not household chores, but focusing attention and using energy on things that keep you genuinely busy. We don't want you to feel excessively capable, therefore you must feel that you are the constructive power in action. Do you understand, my dear? You may think I'm too strict, but having nothing to do, nothing to keep the mind occupied, is one of the most dangerous things in the world because it leaves you exposed to anything wanting to enter your mind. God in each of us. The God within each person is the master, especially of the mind. Rightly understood, mentality is God in action. Where God is, nothing else can be. Affirm often, here only God is, and I see and feel nothing else. When you become aware of, I am the pure mind of God, you consume thought and keep your mind free from desires. One must become aware that within the mighty activity of God lies all mentality. When we mentally connect with an idea, which always has a form, we are in direct communion with the presence of that form. Intellect versus intelligence. It is vital to recognize the difference between intellectuality and intelligence. You must understand that the great intellectual development some achieve, of which they are so proud, is merely what they have accumulated externally, and lacks a firm foundation. In contrast, the mighty intelligence of God comes from within. This intelligence is the source of eternal truth and has an unshakable foundation at all times. The brain or intellect is merely the vehicle for this mighty internal activity. It can be taught to express only this inner intelligence through conscious activity. As individuals with free will, we can choose what will act within us, the accumulations of external intellect or the mighty intelligence in its full capacity. Human beings are the only ones who create discord, limitations, and imperfection because they have forgotten their presence of God, the source of all life. Having completely forgotten it, they have come to believe that the intellect is the only thing that matters, thinking that energy and intelligence operate solely through the intellect. But this isn't true. While it does operate through the intellect, the true intelligence of the presence acts through the heart, which is feeling. Dear friend, your heart is the wise one within your physical body. When you respond to your heart, you will soon find yourself always doing only what is right and perfect. You know very well, I presume you've experienced it, that every time you have followed the true impulses of your heart, you haven't made mistakes. But when you've followed the suggestions of the emotional world through the intellect, you've made many. It is because of this that human beings have sunk themselves into their current limitations, believing they can rely on the intellect, which is merely the accumulation of information gathered from the outside. That is human opinion, collecting increasing human opinions instead of going directly to the presence of God, the mighty I Am, from which all intelligence originates. That is something entirely different, isn't it? You have realized that your presence is there, and your heart knows it too. No matter how much the intellect battles against it, your heart knows it's there. That's why you're beginning to act and understand from the heart, rather than from the head. Of course, the intellect contains a governing center of intelligence from the presence, but if the intellect tries to act with the information it has gathered externally, you are once again lost. You may not realize it, but with every intense desire that arises within you, as you seek goodness and perfection externally, there is an opposing force at work. Let me tell you that if you have that opposing force within your human body, you possess the intellect, which is merely the activity of information collected from the external world. At the same time, you have the heart, manifesting its vibration, which is the activity of the presence of all life, the mighty I Am. You know that sometimes discussions and confrontations arise within you. That is the intellect and the heart. The power of the light does not oppose this, nor override human free will. This is why the intellect, having collected substance from the external world, often dominates the action power of the heart or the intelligence. You see, my friend, that you cannot gather information from the outside and arrive at the correct solution to anything. These are merely human opinions and concepts. Only by invoking the great intelligence of your mighty I Am presence will you come to know the definite, precise, and correct solution to any situation, because the human part cannot do this. When a person allows the intellect to pay attention to individuals who still don't understand and engages with them, they become disturbed and, for a moment, think, could these things be possible or not? It's not unusual for this to happen. The human intellect quickly fosters this. But when you stop to think and do so from deep within the heart knows what is true. If you allow it to act, you will feel it fully. We must be patient even with ourselves until all of humanity obtains the full conviction and glory of this in their feeling world. Thus, all will be satisfied, and no feeling, thought, insinuation or thing will cause them fear or doubt about these great laws. As long as human beings continue to listen to the foolish human concepts, they will continue to feel anguish and disturbance. But I assure you that if you persist with your presence in the light of your presence and refuse to accept or listen to those foolish human gossips, saying these things are not true, you will remain in the light more easily and will verify these great laws and the expansion of this light for yourself. The emotional world. You never realized until it was revealed that your emotional world was the power, the activity obstructing your path. Therefore, as you move forward into the greater activity of life, you will gradually and surely see and verify through your own experience that despite living with these limitations for so many centuries, even today in a relatively short time, you can alter, change and rectify all those mistakes made unwittingly by not understanding the presence of life. Let me explain this point, my friend. When you want something in the physical world, you reach out your hand to accept it, right? So when you extend the hand of your emotional world, your world of desires, to obtain greater perfection, it is as if from the inner point of view you were stretching out your hands and drawing that great perfection before you, with which all life's activity is charged, into your world of feelings. If you continue charging your emotional world 2 or 3 times a day with the perfection of the presence and the power of the light, in a short time you will have to assume that power, which will flow like a river, making you absolutely invincible. But you won't achieve this if you continue accepting human feelings of irritation and criticism in your emotional world. Insist on nullifying them constantly. What others do doesn't matter. Don't let this affect you. Don't allow anything to irritate or disturb you. That's the greatest thing in the world. And I would phrase it this way: eliminate the desire for personal gain. What we are really doing today is elevating the world of desires and putting it under the command of the higher mental body. This entails the complete dissolution of human desires before long, including consuming the desire of the personal self to have its own way. Please remember this, as this point has been raised, because the moment one feels rejection towards another individual, it means that a human quality is acting, and it is up to the individual feeling that rejection to immediately stop and realize that their task is to perfect their own world, be harmonious, and cooperate with the other. This is imperative, because as the light expands, anyone who doesn't do this will be cast out of the light, not by anyone's desire, but by the very light that will expel them from its heart center due to its continuously intensifying activity. I believe everyone has been realizing more and more, not only the necessity, but the reason why it is essential to do this. Satisfying human desires always obstructs the release of light. On the contrary, being harmonious and cooperative in the service of light will ensure the fulfillment of what we have begun. Beloved, you must stay alert. Guard your emotional world. The moment it tries to stir any kind of rejection or disturbance, conquer it. And remember, this firmness toward human qualities does not mean dominating anyone humanly. In sight and hearing, there is feeling, for we can see and hear without needing to use the faculties of sight and hearing. Observing feelings is very important. Pay attention to your feelings, my friend. Notice the difference between discarding something intellectually and eliminating it from your feelings. It's quite easy to discard something intellectually, but feelings do not always respond to or follow that. Therefore, it is imperative to ensure that feelings follow the lead of the intellect. When dealing with secrets or freeing yourself from anything, once feelings follow the intellect, you will soon find yourself free from the conditions you wish to overcome. It's a matter of controlling the susceptibility of feelings in action. When confusion and uncertainty enter your feelings, they dissipate the force that would otherwise concentrate on your goals to produce the desired results. The etheric body. The etheric body does not always move as quickly as the physical body, especially when relaxed or in a harmonious mental state and a feeling of peace. In such cases, it is sometimes quite different from the physical. How grand are your privilege and opportunity? Remember, everyone has the opportunity and privilege to enter the flame unswervingly. Let the wisdom of your presence guide this. As perhaps no two people require the same approach, you should make the invocation before going to sleep. Please don't worry about immediate results or whether you remember them. Just keep making the invocation before sleep. The etheric body attracts radiation into the physical vehicle, causing powerful activity and significant changes. If you understand what I mean from the internal viewpoint, the sooner you stop seeking results, the more quickly they will come. This may sound like a paradox, but it's true. Etheric records. Human beings, their creations, nature, everything, has an etheric counterpart, a pattern that eternally imprints its impression on the surrounding atmosphere. Wherever a person goes, the pattern of their activity and life experience is always within their aura at every moment. This very record exists in every location. An ascended master can, if they wish, revive or clothe a previous experience or activity of an individual wherever they are, because the pattern upon which the master coagulates the atomic structure is always in the individual's aura. When the master coagulates the record of a location, they must do so on the very site. That record, once clothed, becomes the same living form as when it was initially constructed in physical substance. In this sense, it is possible to recoagulate the physical structure of entire buildings and their surroundings when the master desires, for the fulfillment of a good purpose. Once someone has attained this mastery, they can clothe and reanimate any etheric record they wish for the instruction and benefit of students and others. When this is done, the scene is as real as reality itself. The clothed object can be photographed, touched, and made tangible to the physical senses of the observer. Sometimes you experience these activities in your sensitive body, but that doesn't make them any less real, as your physical body is just a garment you, as a thinking and conscious individual, are using. It's like wearing a heavy coat in winter and a light one in summer. The experiences you have while wearing light clothing are no less real than those you have while wearing heavy clothing. Memory. When we reach a point of realization in dominant activity, we sometimes contact the wisdom obtained in past experiences that have been forgotten. If there's a need, we invoke that wisdom and use it. In most cases, this happens without the conscious mind being aware. If we need knowledge gained from past experiences, it is often easier to recall that knowledge than to enter the central source and extract it from there, from the uncreated. The great law is not stingy but conservative. It does not allow any unnecessary use of itself. Let me give you an example. In an external life school, you're asked to memorize a page or two from a text. It never happens that you can't do it. You put in the effort, and before you know it, you've achieved it. With the same determination, you can restore forgotten memory and recover great treasures of wisdom. I'm determined that you understand the simplicity of this powerful truth so that the external self is compelled to give way to this mighty presence. It's all about holding firmly until it's achieved and not being swayed by external things. Let me tell you, though I rarely talk about myself, that I wish you to be aware of all the time I have lived, referring to incarnations before my ascension. I want you to understand that centuries ago, the old method of retaining life in the body for long periods, 200, 300, 600 or 700 years, was common. Do you know what that means? Instead of losing the memory of achievements in one life, you retain the knowledge gained and carry it from one period to another, across various incarnations. Do you realize how great that privilege was? After my ascension, I could use the privilege and understanding that were mine to expand life in the body to perfection. Of course, I could have perfected it much earlier, but due to the service I was offering, I preferred to retain life in that body. A remarkable expression I love to use and have often meditated upon is this: the matter of knowing God is simply the restoration of lost memory. We knew God in the past because we were created by Him. When we began to descend into matter, we had conscious and complete memory. When energy was directed downward, the veil was drawn, and the wonderful and glorious beauty of that divine temple was forgotten. Now that forgotten memory is being firmly and surely drawn back into the activity of the external consciousness. It's surprising that people haven't realized that by making a constant effort and decreeing that this divine memory be fully restored, it will be done. Few have had the patience to continue until they feel enough motivation or encouragement to persevere. Make the decree that the full divine memory be restored, and it will manifest shortly. Divine memory encompasses every word, thought, and action. Memory is what has accumulated from past words, thoughts, and actions. Affirm, I am the conscious memory and understanding in the use of these things. The physical body. The physical body is the vehicle for connecting with the sensory world. There exists the inner world, the mental world, and the physical world. The physical body has been created to act in the lowest vibrational frequency and is the natural vehicle provided for this purpose. Just as you use a car and an airplane to cover distances quickly, so too does the Great Presence use the physical body. The body represents the airplane, and the mind is its powerful engine through which the I Am Presence propels it. Try to understand that your human form is not a dense creation that is difficult to manipulate. Try to feel that it is a transparent substance that obeys your every instruction. Speak to your body. Command it to be strong, receptive only to the ascended master consciousness, to be the perfect expression of the divine power of the I Am Presence, and to manifest its beauty in form and expression. You must make this unconditional determination. The I Am Presence completely governs this physical body and compels it to obey. The more attention you give to your physical body, the more it will become your master, demanding more from you and continuing to direct you. When the physical body is chronically ill or continuously manifests disturbances, this is evidence that special attention has been given for many years to one appearance or another, and it will never improve until a positive attitude is taken and it is compelled to obey. You can produce all the positive outcomes you desire in your body if you focus your attention on its perfection, but do not allow your attention to rest on its imperfections. The brain. The brain is merely a vehicle for internal intelligence. When humanity began to misuse its free will, it fell into consciousness toward its dense physical bodies. The brain is the first place where obstruction begins to register because it is the point of contact with false ideas. These are recorded quickly and intensely in the brain structure, as that is the field of atomic activity. However, sustained attention on the I Am Presence discharges the power of perfection within the electron of the atom, such that false ideas and the obstruction of light simply dissolve and disappear. When you understand that I Am is the only presence, power, and ability to think with your brain cells and accept only the activity of the I Am Presence, you will turn it into the full power that fulfills your desires. The average individual only uses about 5% of their brain. The I Am Presence is always the golden light in the brain. Everyone's brain needs a bath of light every day. The golden light has never affected anyone's brain except in a harmonious way to illuminate and perfect it. It is time to eliminate all human foolishness. There cannot be two masters. Delight the brain with divine and eternal memory. If you forget something, it is because there is not enough light in your brain. Beautify the mind with the clarity and calm of the ascended master understanding. It is you who must take control of your mind and tell it how it should behave. If you allow it, it will waste tons of energy. Assume control of your brain and decree that it be filled with my ascended master consciousness, with the eternal and divine memory of God. When you begin to invoke your divine and eternal memory, the vastness of the infinite is at your fingertips. Affirm, I am the acceleration of the cells of my brain structure, causing them to increase and receive the intelligent direction of the mighty inner presence. Intellect. The external activity of the intellect serves to guide all expansion through constructive channels. This is the purpose and duty of the outer being. The habit of most human beings to use the great vital energy of God destructively, allowing it to be employed only to satisfy sensual desires, inevitably leads to disharmony. I desire you to focus your mind and often remember, as a point of contemplation, that the explanation and instruction I have given you about these laws aim to form within you a condition of conscious mastery over all forces and things on this earth. This means that, no matter what you are experiencing, you will be aware at every moment and in complete control of your mind and body, capable of using your free will at all times. Spinal currents. The currents of positive and negative force that flow on either side of the spine are always active in their mission of distribution and are like two harp strings. The negative one sounds low and the positive one sounds high. When one enters the conscious path, these divine strings, so to speak, begin to be tuned. When they reach a certain tension, they start to respond to the great advanced presences that make them sound in a way unknown to the human form. I suggest that individuals follow their own feelings. Those who can visualize these soul strings are connected at the base of the spine at one end and reconnect at the pineal gland within the brain at the other. The string on the right is a very delicate pink, and the one on the left is a deep blue. The pink carries the powerful divine love through the positive current, while the blue string, the negative current, maintains the external form in divine balance. I assure you that this description is very real as the harp in front of you. When you sit to play, this knowledge and its use will allow you to consciously maintain a balance and firm calm in the external contemplation of the inner presence. Sometimes, when the human form feels tension, it is due to a discordant vibration that has touched one of these strings. There is a small, perfect instrument at the base of the brain that, when used, acts as a key for the harp, tuning these strings for the activity that is appropriate for them. Today it is being considered whether this will come to light or not. If it does, those who receive it will need to be prepared for the intense use of cosmic rays. I ask you to remain firm, clearing from your mind anything discordant in nature. Those who succeed in doing this will receive great benefit. The one who governs their thought and eliminates all discord will open up to the mighty current that tunes these soul strings. Through this, one can receive the precise hearing of the inner presence and the clear vision behind the veil. Just remain at peace, calm, and have confidence in this. Do not feel tense in any way or experience any anxiety. This will give you one of the jewels of inner discernment, which will allow you to completely govern external activity. This means it will enable you to distinguish between human thought and divine thought and govern the external, so that no thought of jealousy, resentment, or self-pity can enter. Those three conditions are the most suffocating to higher activity. Spine. The dominal pattern of the body can never be changed. For example, the fact that the spine becomes deformed is not so much caused by normal physical position as by activity in the emotional world that generates poor posture. You can sit hunched over in a chair. The spine. Well, this does not come from something external, but from within your emotions, which cause you to hunch over. If the vibrational frequency of the emotional world were normal at all times, the spine would remain straight and in perfect condition. Even when one is lying down in bed, one does not curl up. It is the abnormal condition in the emotional world that produces these external effects. An individual with their emotions in a normal state lies perfectly straight in bed, whether on their side or on their back, and has no inclination to curl up in abnormal positions. Doctors will tell you that due to habit, you have developed an abnormal condition in your spine, but I assure you that this is not the result of external habit. but of a cause in the emotional world that generates those positions. Therefore, the pads between the vertebrae of a human being are in constant movement. These intervertebral discs of the spine cannot adopt an incorrect position without an activity within the emotional world causing it. Consequently, every existing physical condition has its cause within the world of feelings, whether it is an abnormal position of the spine, the skeletal structure, or anything else. It is the desire and intention of the great divine director to bring forth a mechanical activity through which the physical body can be adjusted and quickly led to absolute tuning. Now, this does not only refer to the atomic structure of the body, but the vibrational frequency will cause the spine and the skeletal structure to assume a perfect posture. Solar plexus. Everything discordant enters you through a door, the solar plexus. You believe that everything enters through the intellect, but that is not the case. Everything enters through your feelings and must enter there. Nothing greater has been offered to humanity than that which was given by the beloved Nada. When you feel anxiety, sexual desires, and all those kinds of things that are mostly projected onto you, contract the diaphragm and raise it at the door of the solar plexus. You will notice that you exclude those undesirable feelings in the most astonishing way. The process I am describing to you is something wonderful, and it will provide you with the assistance you need to achieve external victory, allowing you to accomplish things with greater ease. Use of the hands. Few can see what happens when a person moves their hands intensely during a speech or explanation. A certain amount of energy is released, but not wasted. Many times, when specific information is given, the energy released in that way helps the person receiving the explanation to understand it. If you observe it, you will see that sometimes hands are not used, and other times they are used almost violently. If people like Billy Sunday and others of equal strength had known what could be achieved by striking the table with open hands instead of closed fists, they would have increased the number of their conversions. The hands are channels through which energy flows. Consequently, those with prior knowledge possess great strength and are usually powerful when it comes to lifting and handling heavy weights. Energy always goes where it is directed with the hands. Senses. Do not allow the external senses to generate a habit or a consciousness that is not an uplifting activity that naturally leads to perfection and harmony. Sensitivity. Currently, even despite the density of humanity's physical bodies, each and every student is 100 times more sensitive than they believe. They are constantly feeling a defined vibrational frequency around themselves. It's just that they do not pay attention to it, nor do they even attempt to understand it. Why is it that when they approach a person they feel a certain rejection? Because in that individual's emotional world, there is something very discordant and possibly vicious. It also happens that students meet someone and feel so attracted to them that they would like to take them in their arms and hug them. That is the power of harmony. Of course, among metaphysical students there exists the idea that they are the only sensitive people. That is a misconception. Everything on earth is tremendously sensitive, more than they themselves accept. If they understand the law, they should pour forth love and kindness. It is possible to become more sensitive with power. One can remain in great calm and at the same time be sensitive enough to detect things instantly while maintaining the governing power. Students will always find within themselves a deep sensitivity. Growth. The law of growth is only a concept of the human mind that accepts limitation and the concept of time. The law of growth exists only in external activity through the use of conscious decree. Like Christ in action, we transcend the law of growth. There was a time when birth occurred through the power of internal vision, creating the complete form as desired through the inner master. This is the same power that the ascended host currently uses to project the forms it employs. Generally, ascended beings use their own bodies for work unless it is necessary to perform a certain number of activities at once. If it is required to execute 3 or 4 activities simultaneously, they project the same number of forms and the energy works through these. The ascended host can project a form as easily as if it were a thought. The instantaneous activity of desire creates the form through thought because the creation of thought is instantaneous. If you want to project thought to a distance, you just need to invest it with an image to create a tangible form for the external senses. This must be done with the atomic structure. It is our privilege to exteriorize and utilize the complete and perfect form of the object, thing, or substance we wish to use. Humanity has made a mistake for a long time, and I will bring it to your attention because I desire it to be indelibly imprinted in your consciousness. Through attention, the external consciousness of humanity has observed things and creations from the standpoint of growth or development, while the student of light does so from the perspective of expansion. The correct understanding will erase from consciousness this illusion or idea of growth for the external senses. Growth requires a short or long period of time, depending on each person's understanding or attitude towards it. The idea of expansion allows the individual consciousness to feel freedom more quickly. Now, this consciousness of expansion arises from the recognition of the expansion of the mighty presence of God. I am the divine, omnipotent principle that gives life, governs and directs the external form. It is time for individuals to erase from their consciousness the idea of growth, which equates to thinking in terms of more or less time, and enter into the freedom that God has given them through expansion, so that they may live, move, and be that full freedom in all things, which is the birthright of all. I will make a personal effort with anyone who comes into contact with this instruction to help them erase from their consciousness the idea of time and growth, and to enter into the expansion of that great inner God. The mighty presence I am. The mighty presence I am, in which all that you need or wish to attract into expression for your own use is already within your worlds, waiting for your abilities to open the door and demand it. All who come into contact with this instruction will have the ability to do this with the assistance that will be given to them. We must reach the point where the external and the internal are one, and the recognition of the expansion of one's inner God, the mighty presence I am, is that oneness. In fact, true unity will come through this recognition. A few individuals have recognized in some way that they now live and move in their own perfect worlds. The idea or consciousness that there seems to be a past, a present, and possibly a future has led the external activity of the mind deep into the consciousness of growth. The realization of the expansion of the consciousness of the mighty presence I am within the individual will facilitate for all who understand this the entry into and use of this realm of perfection with greater speed and certainty. Students will be able to enter more fully into their great use, ascending the beloved human form. This is the law of life. Someday all must purify and ascend the purified human form within the higher mental body and then into the electronic body. Then they will be free forever from the wheel of reincarnation. This is the only way in the world by which they can be free. Therefore, turn toward that achievement and lend that great service to the earth, just as we are doing, until all have been ascended, free forever from the human activity of life. This is how we put ourselves outside the hands of so-called death, and thus we were able to consciously enter that perfect life, which is the divine light, and the eternal inheritance of every child of God. Many have chosen to take a long time to reach this point, but we all have to start someday, and we all have to do it eventually. This part of the human experience has hardly received recognition or been understood or considered as possible to achieve, even when the powerful Master Jesus gave the absolutely perfect example and his explanation 2,000 years ago. He provided humanity with the wonderful and conclusive proof, saying, "The works that I do you shall also do, and greater works than these." That decree remains as a mandatory and perpetual demand upon humanity until it is fulfilled. Humanity has overlooked this true design and has assumed the posture that it is not possible, even though not everyone needs to achieve it exactly the way he did. Nevertheless, every human being must elevate the atomic or external structure toward the imperishable electronic body, where imperfection does not exist. They must do it someday and somewhere. If you take a piece of burning coal from the grill and blow continuously on it, the light will turn white. In the same way, the attention on the light and the mighty presence of God that you are causes the divine inner breath to blow, so to speak, causing the electronic structure of the mind and body to shine with unusual radiance. Cremation. When individuals are not aware of how to ascend the body, many times it is better to let it exit the ruined temple and be free to continue. Cremation not only consumes the physical body, but also disintegrates the destructive element of the emotional or astral body. and weakens the desire in the individual who is to be instructed. The emotional body is practically physical because all the atomic structure is within the physical domain. The electronic structure is beyond the physical domain. Many times the release of the physical body leaves the consciousness purer and able to receive the light. It is true that those who oppose the truth here do not necessarily go through this. Feelings, when registered in your atmosphere, stay there until you dissolve or consume them. What is registered in your atmosphere can only exit through your feelings. Although both situations are undesirable, it is much better to explode and release the issue from your mind than to harbor resentment or bitterness for having been hurt, for that registers in your internal atmosphere. The spoken word. The spoken word, unless accompanied by a feeling of condemnation or rage, will not imprint disharmony in your internal atmosphere. It is a brutal truth, but it must be said, most of the force that individuals discharge comes from anger or resentment in some of its subtle forms. Why? Because it generates intense feelings. Whoever does not understand this, or understanding does not control it, is delaying the hour of victory. You can sit and listen to a destructive conversation without being affected as long as you control the feelings in the solar plexus. Nothing can enter your world unless you invite it. When one becomes furious, they instantly pierce other spheres of that same quality, and an accumulation of the same kind filters rapidly. Guard and govern your feelings, because if not, there will come a time when they will surprise you without your realizing it. Thought has no time or space, you know that, but the world of feelings acts even more quickly than thought. It acts before thought has any chance to react intellectually. The human being has not understood and has not realized that they have a qualifying power that acts in their emotional world, and that it is a feeling, dear friend. The feeling acts with infinite power. You can feel something well before your thought even has time to act. Please understand this and comprehend the importance of maintaining harmony in your feelings for long enough until the great power and perfection of life, with its total and complete presence and activity, takes care of them. This is all that is needed. It is so simple. So little is asked of humanity. Human beings cannot continue to destroy one another, blaming people, places, and conditions for something that exists only in their own emotional world. From my point of view, I see what is registered in your feelings and therefore in your internal atmosphere. You know how a wasp's nest forms. Well, let me tell you that the same thing happens in your mental world. When there is a wasp's nest in the physical world, it is very important that you do something to not harbor negative feelings against people, places, situations, or things, because these accumulate and register in your internal atmosphere. Joy and enthusiasm. We want you to feel great joy and happiness for your ability to invoke the invincible power of life. We will strive to maintain that joyful enthusiasm as the center of this radiation, for all students will feel it and act accordingly. The energy discharged through a feeling of duty or fear is practically null in the work of the Master. The energy of joy, happiness, and bliss is the hope of heaven. The more intense the joy for reaching the light and understanding, the more the activity in the life and world of the individual accelerates. I wonder if you fully understand what it means to discharge such joy and happiness. This makes the realization of almost anything possible. It is magnificent. And why? Because everything generated with a tremendous spirit of joy and happiness comes forth with a power of realization that cannot be achieved in any other way. The constant opportunity of joyful attitude. There is a constant opportunity for those who have a joyful attitude toward the effort of being channels for the discharge of this powerful radiation. Remember, joy is the great engine of life. I assure you that there cannot be a single thing from the lowest to the highest without a desire backing it up. For desire is the power of the soul that seeks to express itself again. It seems necessary to establish the mighty consciousness that desire is the great activity of God, the motivating power, so to speak, through which the wings of thought carry something to productivity. Some will tell you that they have many wrong desires, but I assure you it is only due to a lack of control over free will. Every mature human being knows the difference between allowing energy to flow through a constructive channel or a destructive one. Because of this, they can easily choose where that energy will go. It is of vital importance that students have a correct understanding of desire. Many falsehoods have been said about the supreme ideal of killing desire. Doing so would lead to falling into a state of apathy in which you would open yourself to any existing destructive force. You have to attract what you need or desire. Desire is merely a lesser activity than a decree, for the decree is the recognition of the fulfilled desire. Desire is an indirect activity of attention, but the sustained desire, supported by determined attention, is the cause of it becoming an invincible manifestation. This will give you a faint idea of how important it is that conscious direction goes hand in hand with desire. I am the manifested activity and the sustaining power of all constructive things that I wish. Use this statement as a general decree, for the sustaining power is in all that exists. Constructive desire, when the individual's desire is sent forth, launched, and sustained in order to achieve something constructive, has the power of the universe at its command, which will unfailingly support it at every moment, as long as their determination remains unwavering. When you feel the desire to do something constructive, make it a reality and bring it forth into reality, as long as you keep it in your remembrance. You must know that when you decree something constructive, it is God who is prompting you to act. The desire for light and truth is the presence of God in desire, projecting into action. When your desire is projected, clothed with the presence, power, and intelligence of God, it cannot fail. Your desire holds the power or energy of God through the attention on what you wish to do. I am the full revelation and the perfect treatment to precipitate what I desire, and I know is perfect, which my outer being must do to precipitate it. Individuals often ask, how do I know if I am using the inner will or the outer will? It is very easy to determine. When it is known that all constructive desire is the use of the inner or divine will, if students accept and utilize these simple and powerful truths, they will find no difficulty in controlling themselves or any condition. When you have a constructive desire backed by its twin sister, determination, and you know that each of them is merely an attribute of God in action, at that moment you discharge the most immense power to achieve the manifestation of your desire. Constructive desire is the expansive activity within life, for it constitutes the only way that more and greater ideas, activities, and achievements are pushed to express themselves in the world of substance and form. Within every positive desire lies the power of its own fulfillment. The human being is the child of God. They have orders from the Father to choose how to direct the vital energy and what quality they wish to express through their manifested desire. They are obliged to do this because free will is their innate right. Constructive desire or human appetite. There is a point that the true student, and all those who desire manifestations, should know unequivocally, and it concerns desire. No one can ever achieve mastery over human creation and gain ascension through an indifferent attitude, for without striving for victory, victory is impossible. Always remember that all constructive desire is God in action within you. If desire were not within the divine principle, manifestation would never have taken place, for until divinity desired it, manifestation could not arise. The activity of desire is the expansive movement of life itself and can never be dispensed with. Life is perpetual movement, and the sustenance of this activity is every constructive desire. Therefore, be careful to discern between desire and human appetite, as they are as opposed to one another as light and darkness. Appetite is merely an accumulation of energy qualified by human feeling through the formation of habit in the sensory organism, and has nothing to do with the desire that exists within divine life, for all that dwells within that life is pure, perfect, and constructive. Constructive desire exists eternally within life. It is impossible to progress or express life without some form of desire. The student's occupation is to be alert, vigilant, and always discern what motive drives them to do something. They need to be severe and honest with themselves regarding their feelings and motives, as many times the external activity of the mind tries to make one think they are doing something motivated by reason, when in reality what they are doing all the time is satisfying an emotion. Currently, most of the race is composed of emotional creatures, as this body controls them 90% of the time, sidelining the wisdom of the mind. This is why they are mainly creatures of physical appetites rather than divine masters who direct and dominate circumstances. Until the student takes control of the emotional body definitively through the love, wisdom, and power of their mighty I Am presence, they will not be independent or able to progress toward their freedom. The mighty I Am presence stores its strength in the emotional body or feeling body and relies on that energy to manifest the fullness of the divine plan of perfection of life. Everyone knows the difference between a constructive idea and a destructive one, between a feeling of love, peace, serenity, and one of discord. The simplest mind, even that of a child, innately knows the difference between the divine path of life, a divine desire, and the human appetite seeking self-gratification. We must choose the path of life, and if we do not compel the sensory appetites to obey the command, then we will have to suffer, experiencing chaos and destruction until we put our own world in order to blend with the great harmonious and orderly movement of the whole. Purity, order, and harmony are the law of eternal perfection. When one allows feelings of resistance or rejection, instead of quieting and replacing them with peace, the individual destroys themselves, their mind, their body, and their world. The law is this: no matter where a human being sends a discordant thought and feeling, these must first vibrate through all their brain and body before they can reach the rest of the universe. After making a journey, they begin the return trip to the one who sent them. As they return, they attract to themselves a great accumulation that will thus shape the individual's own world. This is the immutable law governing feelings. Today, once again, in open conversation with you, heart to heart, you will understand as never before that throughout the history of humanity, disharmony in feelings has been the cause of all the limitations and anguish that human beings have experienced. You will become aware and understand now why humanity has not understood the following: the way to achieve and maintain self-control over their own feelings. Even advanced students have thought that it is not possible to consciously and willingly generate an intense feeling aligned with desire. I tell you truly and with certainty that anyone can, if they long for it, generate a feeling of adherence to the light as intense as the one they can generate in a fit of anger, sulkiness, or despair. The two opposites of emotion. These are the two opposites. Allowing oneself to fall into a moment of anger or despair is to be used rather than to take this opportunity to rise up and harness it. One should generate intense love as the polar opposite of their anger or rage, and through this manage the situation. However, this is rarely done, but those who do so will always be the masters of every situation. The ideal of control would be to adopt the attitude of living always by restraining and balancing emotions. Those who do this will receive immense blessings. Control your feelings at all times, for they build that which not even an ascended master can interfere with. People could focus inward and feel that great presence that gives, preserves, and resolves all things, anchoring themselves consciously in that great presence with such certainty and security that fears and doubts could not assail them. This would allow them to rise firmly in that great eternal victory that must someday and somewhere be realized. If I were you, I would decree every day at some moment that my emotions never be touched by any human suggestion of any kind. When you perform mental treatments, your feelings are abundant, but they do not always follow. If your feelings always accompanied the treatments, you would perform miracles because they are intense. However, in the fervor of external practice, you do not notice that feelings do not always follow. So, if you focus your attention on this, you will ensure they do not wander when you wish them to be concentrated. I appreciate your attention and receptivity. Please, could you feel that all that you are, hope to be, or possess must come through your emotional world? There is no other place it can come from. Therefore, it is imperative that your world of feeling remains in harmony for enough time so that life can cleanse all discord and imperfection in your physical body and emotional world. When this work has progressed sufficiently, the power of life will flow freely and will appear as something perfectly natural, but with such power that you cannot conceive. Only through personal experience will you verify this great law, and only by applying it will you see how it reflects in your own life. Today, I want you to feel that I am interested in you, that I care about the success of your endeavors and your illumination and perfection, perhaps much more than you do. The power of feeling. The power of feeling was once thought to be mental capacity. However, human beings are also mental and emotional beings. It was also believed that thoughts should be controlled and governed if harmony and success were to be desired. You may have realized that this idea is also wrong, because your world of feelings is your power plant. Until you govern your emotions, all the thoughts and corrections in the world cannot help you. When you change your feelings, you will have changed the entire structure of your body and your world of activity. When you understand the necessity of keeping your emotional world in harmony, then the full power of life will flow naturally into immense activity, and you will find that harmony and success belong to you. Beloved student, I tell you this with much kindness and benevolence. Every destructive feeling of criticism and condemnation that comes from an individual will return to them. I would love for you to avoid this, but if you insist on doing it, you will reap exactly what you have sown. When the great law of life is understood, it proves to be wonderful. Long ago, I did not understand it either, but the moment came after going through tremendous experiences in the human octave, the same ones through which all humanity passes. Then I also saw that the only matter standing between my being and my current position in the light was my own feelings. Those feelings of rage and discontent that had become unrestrained were what had prevented my success, and they are the only things that prevent human beings from enjoying the happiness and victory to which they are entitled. The powers of presence can only enter activity through your mind, your body, and your world of feelings. Remember that your emotional world is the most important of all, because it is your source of power. Your emotions, if they act in your world, are the most deserving of consideration in all human experience. Your attention is powerful, but feeling is even more powerful, and today it constitutes your most potent resource once you understand that you are responsible for what you feel, and that you must direct it consciously. This is why I ask you, my beloved friend, to first understand this one great principle of life. One single thing has deprived you of having all that your heart longs for, the happiness and perfection, the disharmony recorded in your world of feelings. Let us eliminate that once and for all. Remember that your mission is to harmonize and perfect your own world and activity. What others do does not concern you at all. Until now, you have believed it is your duty to govern someone else, when the only thing you need to focus on, and the only thing we need from you, is to govern your own world of feelings. Then when you have harmonized it, you will be able to invoke with all your heart the presence of light, so that its powerful intelligence, its invincible protection, and its mighty radiation fill your world of activity and produce the required perfection. This is the truth for every human being. Everything you generate and send outward through your feelings will return to you. I assure you, my friend, that the most important thing and what every human being needs today is to achieve this simple and magnificent understanding. You must realize that your world of feelings is the cause of everything that exists there, and the emotional world of all human beings is the cause of everything that exists in humanity as a whole. Humans blame the government, the city, the state, or perhaps their rulers for certain existing conditions, not realizing that in their world of feelings lies the power to control all that. You must become aware that when you accept something negative, you are adding destructive qualities to what is already acting there. Beloved friend, remember this: you cannot solve anything by condemning it. With that, you only add destructive force to what is already acting there, be it a friend, a sincere partner, or your business activities. The moment you allow feelings of condemnation and criticism to arise and continue to express themselves, you are pushing a destructive quality into your own activity that will one day cause everything around you to explode and shatter into pieces. Acceptance of the truth. It is not easy to accept this, but someday everyone everywhere will be forced to accept it, because in the world there is only one cause that originates these conditions, whether on a massive or individual level, and that cause is the feeling of humanity. The mind cannot conceive of something that cannot be realized. It is impossible for you not to receive what comes from the mighty presence I am as an idea. When you truly know that it is God who is sending or giving that idea, do not allow the apparent lack of something to find a resting place in your consciousness. Make the affirmation that you are free now and feel it. When we love God enough, He brings us into His essence so that what we desire manifests quickly. It is impossible for God to fail at anything. His activity is more or less instantaneous to the extent that we take power away from the external things to which we have previously given that power. This will show you that one can always have the power of realization, a kind of powerful magic wand that one can take in their hands to use for anything, from the smallest to the largest. The only thing that delays or lacks realization is that one consciously or unconsciously, divides this power, which will act according to the direction given to it. Meditate on the following affirmation. Knowing this will give increasing strength to that powerful energy that you can consciously direct at any moment. It is impossible for anything to happen in my life that is not the perfection, the perfect activity of God. Since you came into contact with this current of light, how many things have you accomplished? It would be good for you to review the desires you have had and see how many have already manifested, for humanity is very prone to accept things to which it is accustomed as a natural consequence. It is not that this is truly surprising, but when you begin to make the list, it is worth seeing how many things have manifested, both large and small, meaning from your human perspective. Any individual who does not understand the presence receives less than 10% of that presence and power that could flow through their body and emotional world, producing everything that is necessary. But you, who possess the understanding of the great presence and know how to invoke it, can manifest 20, 40, or 50 times that presence and power in less than a year. There is no student of the light who cannot invoke at least 50 times the energy, intelligence, and power of action that they have had so far. The reality of reincarnation. The truth is that human beings have lived hundreds and thousands of incarnations, and the truth does not change just because many do not accept it. Therefore, my friend, realize that you have been given opportunity after opportunity. Currently, a large number of people have expanded the light within them enough to understand it in their feelings. When they contact this great truth, they realize that it is what they have been seeking all their lives. And this is precisely the comment of thousands and thousands of individuals who have already come into contact with this great light. How do they know? By the very light in the depths of their hearts. The wheel of reincarnations. My friend, if life only gave you one opportunity to correct yourself, to rectify conditions, and to remedy the mistakes made, life on earth would be nothing more than a disguise. Those who deny reincarnation are extremely foolish. As we know from personal experience, reincarnation is a reality, and we are in a position to know the truth about it. Currently, you are understanding the reason why you are given opportunity after opportunity to correct the mistakes made. But one single life would not be enough to correct even 1/100th of the errors made in an incarnation. Today, upon entering again into this freedom once and for all, dear friend, observe through the great light that is within your heart what this means. Now, do not seek only victory over your individual present conditions or even your own freedom. Victory lies in a goal far beyond. The current achievements are just a part of the activity of life. In that final goal is the freedom of all life, Ascension. When you reach it, you will be free forever from all human limitations and from reincarnation. Until you accomplish Ascension, you will continue to incarnate over and over again. No human being in the world escapes this. The wheel of reincarnations continues until the human being achieves Ascension. Remember, the human being has nothing to do in the world except recognize the presence of God in all life. The mighty I Am, maintaining their feelings in harmony and holding their attention on the presence. In this way, the true power of that life, which is anchored in the depths of their heart, begins its powerful expansion. Then, when that life has expanded sufficiently in the body, the earth loses its power of attraction over it, and by law, and in a completely natural way, the power of the light, this presence, ascends the purified body toward the higher mental body, and then toward itself to become a fully ascended being. The accumulated momentum. It is the most natural thing in life. Many times in past incarnations, you accumulated tremendous energy, sometimes yes, sometimes no. When one achieves a formidable accomplishment in this life, it is because they have charged their emotional world with tremendous energy. Observe the businessmen who have achieved great financial success. Do you think they built that in this incarnation? No, indeed. Some of these individuals have desired wealth for 3 or 4 past incarnations. They built and gained that momentum, which manifested in this incarnation, even though their families had no financial resources or anything else. That great impetus arose through those children who started as shoe shiners or newspaper vendors, and see what that energy did for them. That energy was not generated in that moment. It had been invoked and accumulated in past incarnations with that specific quality. The great desires of one life become the driving force of the next. Life is the power that makes those things happen. Life is the power that brings you financial success and happiness. Life is the power that accomplishes everything that is done through human form. Those who think with arrogance and ignorance that they have the power in human form will one day see their error. Just when they find themselves at the top, they will fall and will no longer be able to handle the situation. Then they will wonder what was acting there. On earth, there is no human being who can refute what was acting in that body that now lies inert. That powerful presence of energy and life, everything that was done or accomplished through the individual was due to that powerful presence of life. Then did it belong to that physical form, or did it only act through it? It was acting through it, even though that human form did not possess even a gram of that energy and power. Everything that becomes real through the individual comes through that current of life and energy, first as ideas and then as forms. Eternal youth. Think about it, eternal youth, my friend. You are on the threshold of infinite perfection. There is no one, no matter their age, who cannot restore their youth, vitality, resilience, and power as long as they wish to do so. But that will initially require great determination until they have overcome the charged energy they have absorbed from everything around them. Invoking the presence. If you invoke the presence to dissolve and consume every accumulated particle from the past and present with the blazing violet flame, then you will find it quite easy. Affirm, "Great Presence I am," through the higher mental body. Assume command of each individual. Silence the human qualities. Release the unlimited energy. Restore vitality, strength, and youth in the body, and direct the intelligence. Keep the attention of every human being on something constructive and send them towards success like a rocket. This is the order and divine justice for every human being. The transfer of birth currents. You have been informed that the currents of birth have been transferred from the retreat of the Master Himalaya in the east to the Temple of God Manu in South America. This means that in the near future the number of births will considerably increase in the Western Hemisphere, for the magnetic power that has attracted millions of souls to India, China, and other Asian countries in the past is now being reversed, and soon it will begin to lead souls to incarnate in the West. Western vehicles are much more vital and energetic than those in the East. We expect to have a greater amount of energy to manage in this increasing Western population. We desire to lead a large part of this population toward Canada and South America, to keep the heart of the United States free from any individual karma that still needs to be redeemed. Conditions of childhood. If you consider the living conditions under which most children come into the world, at least 75% of them are considered accidents. You will realize that life is truly kind in providing the protection, life currents, and sustaining power that make really beautiful creatures out of individuals who were brought into conditions where they were truly not wanted. The mass of humanity is still in that position for one reason or another. Sometimes the cause is the lack of money. In others, the parents do not wish to take the trouble to raise a child, and there are many more reasons. These are the conditions that everyone must understand now, and not be affected by the knowledge of them, but rather comprehend them from the perspective of life and its manifestation, the magnificent, kind, and powerful presence of life that does such wonderful things for the human form. The power of parental influence. I want to draw your attention to this point. I have seen children born into practically depraved families. In these children, the light was strong enough for them to rise above the conditions that surrounded them and the influences of their surroundings, and they became kind and wonderful beings. You have observed this many times. I have known cases where the intense fear of the father for his child attracted the child to the very condition the father feared. This is something that affects humanity. Sometimes the child is advanced enough to largely protect themselves from the fear and anxiety of their parents, even if unaware of it externally. In 90% of the cases, the anxiety of the parents is the cause of a wrong action, especially when it comes from the mother. This is a tremendous truth that is little understood. The mother, being the one who builds the child's body, shapes the substance with which the form is constructed and establishes a personal connection with her child during the incarnation. If the mother knew this from an enlightened point of view, she would have the power to shape the child into the most wonderful and perfect being. or to hold the focus through which the child is shaped until they become a perfect being. Conversely, if she allows anxiety, which is a subtle form of fear, to govern her thoughts constantly, that thought reaches the child and can disturb them to the point of causing complete failure. This is an extreme example of what happens when a mother does not control her thoughts. This illustrates the great importance of parents knowing and feeling that the child or children they love are not constantly governed by perfect divine intelligence, the mighty presence I am. The moment anxiety or fear attempts to intrude, the parents must consume it and replace it with the firm awareness that the perfect intelligence of God is the only thing acting in and around their child. If all mothers could comprehend this wonderful truth and live it, a marvelous race would be born. The influence of education. This is a great natural law that has only been partially understood by some students. I presume that no one has understood this point more clearly than any other teacher in today's external world, and has made a sincere and powerful effort to bring this understanding to her readers. Let it be clear that I am in no way criticizing or condemning mothers, but I intensely lament the lack of understanding of this vital and wonderful point. The education and suggestion that envelop the child from ages 5 to 12 or 14 determine the character they will have when they reach adulthood. Unless through conscious knowledge and the practice of the presence of God, the person consumes and frees themselves from all mismanagement and thus walks toward the presence of internal truth, the parents should rejoice every time the presence or thought of the child manifests, because the full and perfect consciousness of God is acting through their child in thought or feeling, perfectly governing all external activity. This will lead the child toward the presence and power of divine activity in a wonderful way. The perception of children. There are children who have been punished for seeing angelic beings and for manifesting an inner perception. It is the parents of those children who should be punished for daring to interfere with their child's divine gift of freedom. If adults lived more in conscious imagination and in acceptance of the great presence whose existence humanity doubts, they would feel how that presence elevates them and gives them intelligence. The time has come to make a special effort to bring an understanding of light to human beings aged 12 and above. Many great souls have incarnated after the war. Once contact is made, they will immediately feel the inner response. Anyone who feels that response will benefit greatly from external contact with the truth. It is wise to always make the decree, I, the Christ, the mighty presence I am, order that there be no interference with the truth being transmitted to people, for the truth always constitutes its own defense. This will project a presence around the younger students that will not accept insinuations or suggestions that could lead them away from the truth and the presence of which they felt the internal response. Aging and vitality. As for aging, I affirm that it does not matter whether your physical appearance is that of a 30-year-old or a 70-year-old. That has nothing to do with it. This powerful presence of life is the energy, youth, and strength that is in your body, not the human concept that says you are 70 years old and are past your prime. I tell young people who are starting now, do not accept that notion. Do not accept that human suggestion accumulated over ages that says that after 40 years, one begins to feel old. Do not accept it. That is an atrocity. Human beings have accepted this, and then, when they pass 40, they begin to feel old. That is absurd. The energy is the same as it was in youth, the same power that can sustain them in that state. All that is required in the entire universe is that energy. Thanks to experiences week after week, month after month, intelligence necessarily becomes greater as they direct their attention toward the great presence. Invoke this intelligence more and more until it becomes invincible. Then they will find themselves assimilating and feeling those currents of energy flowing through their body and will not experience any lack of energy or vitality due to the suggestion of the masses. Human beings believe they lose vitality and energy because of the accumulation of years. Then they shrug and say, well, I guess I'm no good anymore. What a mistake. What a great error. Of course, they do not know that they are connected with the great power of the universe, but you who know this can reverse all those conditions today before every imperfect condition you see, especially old age. Decree, I am the perfection of that individual who appears to be old. Thus, you will have activated God within that person. Death, that part of the human being that says, I am, is the life, the intelligence, and the power that act through the physical body. When the discordant habits of the atomic consciousness of the physical body build up such momentum that in the light of the mighty I Am presence, it is no longer allowed to expand and maintain the fulfillment of a constructive plan of life, then the inner master begins to diminish its supply of energy and eventually withdraws. There is only one thing that causes what the world calls death, and that is the lack of sufficient liquid light within the nerve channels. That light is what radiates the cohesive power that keeps the atoms that form the fleshly body together. That liquid light belongs to the great I Am presence of the universe and comes only from it. The outer garment is the receptacle within which this presence pours its light to be used for a constructive purpose. When that purpose is continuously obstructed, the light is withdrawn, and the fleshly body, which should be the temple of the Most High Living God, disintegrates. The experience called death is a constant reprimand to humanity and a permanent reminder to the personal self of its disobedience to the original divine plan, the divine path of life. Humanity does not like to hear this truth, but the depletion of vital energy through unrestrained feelings is the cause of the disintegration of all physical bodies, even through violence. If one uses inner sight to observe the life current of a strong, healthy child, one can see the nerves of the body filled with this dazzling liquid white light. Then, if one observes the child's body when it is sick or fatigued, one will see the light greatly diminished. In an old body it is even more reduced, and if one wishes to observe the soul leaving the body in the change called death, one will see this life current completely extracted and gathered at the top of the head until it becomes only a thin thread that eventually breaks at the instant the heart stops beating. The so-called death is nothing more than an opportunity to rest and reharmonize the faculties of personal consciousness, thus freeing them from the disorders and discord of the earth, taking the necessary time to receive the flow of light and strength that will empower that outer activity of the mind to undertake new work in the physical experience. The purpose of physical action is to prepare, perfect, and illuminate the body, whose vibrational frequency can be raised until it merges with the body of the great I Am presence, which we call the magical presence and to which the beloved Jesus referred as the seamless robe. In this body made of pure electronic substance, the individual is free from all limitation through intense devotion to the great I Am presence. Anyone can download their power to the point where they can see this radiant body of such bright substance that at first it is hardly possible to give it a look due to the great intensity of its light. Through such devotion, one begins to manifest more and more their own conscious dominion over all manifestation. This is the eternal light of all and the purpose for which we traverse through human experience. When one who desires such freedom has reached the point where they can instantaneously release the amount of light they wish from their electronic body, then through their own command, they can control all manifestation, no matter in what sphere they choose to express themselves. One has only to observe the world to see what discordant thoughts and feelings do to the beautiful bodies that nature provides for our experience in the physical part of life during childhood and youth. The physical body structure is beautiful, strong, and obedient to the demands placed upon it. But when discordant thoughts and feelings are allowed to express themselves in the personal self, over the years, as life goes on, the body deteriorates and the temple falls into ruin because the outer consciousness no longer obeys the law of life, which is love, harmony, and peace. Call it what you will, for the eternal truth remains, and discord is but another name for disintegration, synonymous with death. When humanity learns to live life according to the eternal law of love, it will find that such obedience will have freed it from the wheel of reincarnations. Consequently, the problems of human existence will have disappeared, and in their place will come the happiness of perfection that always expands, which dwells forever within love. A constantly new creation will always arise because life is perpetual movement that does not slacken nor sleep, as it is and always will be a self-sustaining current of perfection, happiness, and ecstasy in continual expansion. Eternally renewed with new designs, this perfect activity and this happiness of life are included in the obedience to the law of love. The last enemy, death, will have disappeared, as it is only a means to free oneself from a garment that has no further service to render in the pursuit of attaining the perfection of life. When the physical body is severely incapacitated, and the personality that occupies it can no longer make a self-conscious effort to express perfection, then nature takes over and dissolves the limitation. In this way, the individual may have a new opportunity to make another beneficial effort. Mourning the death of a loved one is selfish, as it delays the greater good that that loved one should enjoy. Mourning such a feeling of loss is really rebellion against the activity of a law that exists to provide a greater opportunity for rest and growth, since nothing in the universe moves backward, and all, no matter the temporal appearance, is advancing towards greater joy and perfection. The divine consciousness in us is not distressed, nor can it be, and the human part should know that since no one can ever leave the universe, that loved one must be somewhere much better than the one they left. True and real divine love can never cease to exist, and must at some time somewhere draw us towards that which we love. In true divine love there is no separation, and that which feels like separation is not love. The feeling of separation is simply one of the errors of the personal self, in whose belief it continues to live, because it does not understand the nature of consciousness. Where consciousness is, the individual is functioning, for an individual is their consciousness. When one thinks of a loved one who has passed on, in that very moment, one is really with them in their higher mental body, simply because consciousness has focused its attention on them. If the Western world could understand this truth, it would break the chains that cause so much unnecessary suffering. That affliction is entirely generated by the fact that the personality, especially in the feeling world, accepts the body as if it were the person itself instead of knowing that the body is just a garment that the individual wears. Based on this, each person should have complete and eternal dominion and impose perfect obedience at all times. If one truly loves another person, one must wish for the other to be happy and harmonious. Through the so-called death, an individual chooses to accept a better opportunity for a future expression. If there were the slightest spark of love, we should not feel pain or wish to hold that loved one in a state of incapacity when they could move on to greater relief and freedom. Ignorance regarding this truth allows selfishness to keep humanity bound to the chains of limitations created by itself. This kind of ignorance binds and delays the expression of life for the entire race and is a stubborn refusal to understand that life. This drags thousands of human beings each year into the depths of despair, completely unnecessary and avoidable, when they could and should be enjoying happiness and living in the path that the mighty I Am Presence wishes for them to live. Such an attitude toward life not only impedes the achievement of anything worthwhile, but also incapacitates the individual, filling them with self-pity, one of the most subtle and insidious ways through which the sinister force weakens their resistance, dragging them into negativity. The person must remain positive if they want to achieve their victory and express mastery. The sinister force that has been generated by humanity on this earth uses this method to take hold of wonderful aspirants and stop them from achieving their liberation, and using the full power of the divinity that is theirs from the beginning, for it is the Father's gift to his disembodied children to help those who have passed on. Affirm, I am the presence that maintains that person in the sphere to which they belong, teaching and enlightening them. The angelic host rejoices at the return of the traveler who has sought for so long. Authority in the external realm only finds shells after their energy has been exhausted. They return home, and there find the source to recharge and correct all discrepancies, even the so-called old age. Thus they can once again stand renewed with full youth and power, for that is the path of divine life. Within the divine archive of each individual is recorded every constructive experience, which is why when a need arises, wisdom is naturally the first place from which it is drawn. For example, if you had a book containing certain formulas, you wouldn't go to someone else who has the same book. You would look in yours and thus save time and energy. As the student delves deeper into their great wisdom, it manifests more and more. If humanity had not squandered the wisdom and strength stored within its consciousness, they would invoke it much more rapidly, for it is at hand in the universe. Energy is not wasted except in the external activity of humanity. This does not mean that the universe can exhaust itself at some point. Rather, it is a way of instructing the student about the conservative use of that energy. The The Book of Life. As pure and amorphous electronic light flows forth from the presence, the consciousness of the individual is the pen that writes in the Book of Life the story of how they use that invaluable energy. Many of the volumes written by the soul are closed when the last breath leaves the body and are then placed in the hands of the Angel of Records to be read in the halls of karma. Then, when the soul is assigned to a realm where its light can be better expanded, it must strive to write every page where the shadows of human thought and feeling have cast their gloom over the impulses of the higher self. Once again, when the soul approaches a new birth, it is given a book with blank pages to write once more. However, life after life, century after century, it writes the same novel with slight variations. Finally, when the soul awakens, the book of victory is written, bound and delivered to the higher mental body or Christ self, who receives it with a prayer of gratitude and joy because the long journey has concluded, and the presence of white fire announces the good news. It is finished. Then the triumphant soul passes through the doors of the Father's house to never leave again. The end of the pilgrimage. How can someone truly sincere continue to question their ability to invoke the powers of the presence or refuse to accept that it is there, whether they see it or not in this incarnation? It is there, I assure you. This presence has been in all and each of the incarnations you have lived. Until humanity knows of the presence that is above each individual, there will be no way to release the great powers it needs to achieve success and free itself from human creations. You must know today that the presence of life that is upon you, whose ray of light and energy allows your heart to beat, has never been disconnected from you. Without it, you could not exist and retain the physical body. The fact that you possess a physical body is proof that you have that presence of life that sustains it, giving it life and intelligence to act. Therefore, I ask you to address that presence of God upon you today and put it to the test. Have the determination to make the most sincere and honest invocations and observe how quickly the proof you require will arise. Do not yield to any other feeling than that determination to obtain its guiding intelligence, its power, and its sustaining activity manifested through your body and your emotional world, so that it takes its dominion and produces the perfection you desire. As you do this, you will see, feel, and experience a freedom and mastery like you have never known in life, especially in this incarnation, as we are at the culmination of a period of humanity in which it must free itself from the very long wheel of reincarnations. There are many thousands of souls who will culminate their earthly pilgrimage in this incarnation. The Goddess of Freedom told me something very interesting that I share with you today as a little celestial news. She commented that for the first time since the Atlantean era, a large number of souls are asking to reincarnate instead of waiting to be summoned to appear before the karmic tribunal before incarnating. You know that when you leave the physical body, your sight intensifies and you are able to see many things that are piously hidden from sight when you are still walking the paths of the earth. And that is fine, as each one carries a heavy burden of karma, and it would serve no purpose for you to see more than what you see at present. But when the life current is on this side of the veil and feels the push to return to the karmic tribunal, it knows that its vacation here has ended, and generally there is a struggle in the heart at having to return to the limiting chains of the flesh. The Goddess of Freedom tells me that requests come daily from every realm and sphere on this side of the veil from souls seeking an opportunity to incarnate. This generates many great problems, if they can be called that, in the inner levels due to the weight of the karma of these souls, as well as the weight of the life currents already incarnated, which is the cause of the tilt of our sweet earth. Therefore, as much as we want to increase the number of incarnated souls, if we do not have enough life currents trained in the use of the sacred purifying fire, and if more and more souls are allowed their incarnation, giving them with their birth certificates karma to redeem, we would soon have in our hands a more unbalanced planet than the one we already have. This brings us back to the shepherds, who are dear students. They will realize that we cannot expand the vision too much in our hearts, which is the hope of achieving the redemption of this race and the freedom of our beloved Lord Sanat Kumara, until there are enough interested in invoking the transmuting power of the sacred fire to allow us to increase the number of souls to incarnate. I asked the Goddess of Freedom if she considered it part of the wisdom of the law to establish temples of the violet flame in the psychic and astral realms through which a service of purification could be performed. In the inner levels, right at the heart of the great condensed evil, She welcomed the idea but questioned how many volunteers would be willing to accept the task of serving in these temples. From there, I went to Archangel Michael, who, in sacrifice to life, spends a great deal of his existence working in those realms. I consulted him on the same topic. He also felt that through these violet flame temples, we could render great service to the souls that find themselves in the psychic and astral realms. We thought that perhaps if we could get some members of the student body to serve in the violet flame temples in those realms during the nights when they go to sleep, or if they could volunteer to become active members of the legions that wield the blue flame sword at night, at least we could do something to help those souls who wish to incarnate to complete the conditions required to do so. Then you will see that the physical action of the law is another point to consider. People have the idea that most of our time is spent in joyful abandon, singing songs with the angels, going from place to place. But currently there is a huge amount of detail involved in managing a star, even one the size of our planet. Reincarnation, the process of achieving self-consciousness, would be impossible without reincarnation. The outer body could not withstand the speed of development of self-conscious knowledge in a single incarnation. When free will was granted to duality, there was no certainty of what would come. Knowing that there were two opposites throughout the lower manifestations, the soul came to overcome all negative conditions to return once again to that perfect state crowned with the victory of self-conscious knowledge. That is why one cannot learn from another's experience. Each must go through their own experiences and overcome them. That is the reason for the long process of reincarnation. The soul must have periods of rest for this intense activity. The Ascended Masters never have thoughts of condemnation, for they have gone through all experiences to reach the ascended state. This does not mean going into details. The power of self-conscious knowledge gained through a life experience gives a person an ability, an understanding, and a power infinitely greater than those obtained by someone who has not entered this path. Therefore, the one who has gone through human experience and, through their own effort, has elevated themselves to become an ascended being, is a master who is even above the angels. Some angels have also gone through human experience. The student who must reincarnate must make the following decree: next time, to be born in a family of great light. This will open the door for their progress to accelerate greatly. Law of Reincarnation. The law of reincarnation is the activity of human growth that grants the individual the opportunity to restore a condition of balance that they consciously disrupted. It is only one of the activities of the law of compensation, the law of cause and effect, or what can be called the automatic balancing process that governs all forces of the universe everywhere. The correct understanding of this law explains many conditions of human experience that, without it, seem totally unfair. It is the only logical explanation for the infinite complexities and human experiences that reveal the operation of the law upon which all manifestation rests. This helps to understand that there is no such thing as what they call chance or accident. Everything has a prior cause, and everything that happens in this moment is the cause of a future effect. If a man has harmed a woman in one life, it is certain that he will reincarnate in a female body and will go through a similar experience until he suffers what he made another person endure. The same happens to any woman who hurts or damages a man. This is the only way that each one is compelled to experience both the cause and the effect of everything they generate in the world. The individual can experience and create whatever they desire in their own world, but if they wish to do what causes discord to others, they are obliged to experience the same condition, until they understand what the effect of their own creation is on the rest of life in the universe. There is only one way to avoid the cosmic wheel of cause and effect, that is, the need to reincarnate, and that is to make the conscious effort to understand the law of life. One must intensely seek the inner God, make contact with that higher self, and push strongly forward. Every condition of external life is my pleasure and my privilege to teach you more, but only through the instruction that will bring you and others to awareness. Due to the ignorance of the senses, human appetites, and the desires of the external self, humans carry within them the impulse to incarnate again and again. These appetites of the sensory nature of humanity are merely accumulations of energy that the individual has qualified in one way or another through their thoughts and feelings. This poorly qualified energy gains momentum through repetition and becomes a habit when focused for some time on a particular goal. The sensory appetites from previous lives become the driving force and habits of successive incarnations, keeping the human being enslaved, binding them to the wheels of discord, lack, and need, and throwing them into a labyrinth of human problems and challenges created by themselves, which compel them to learn and obey the law of love, which is the law of the One. If humans only understood that human incarnation on this earth is an opportunity that the great law of balance gives to the personal self to correct the mistakes made in previous lives, then they would use each experience to extract the lesson it offers, instead of rebelling against circumstances and becoming slaves to them. This constant return to physical incarnation would be an infinite circle of causes and effects if it were not for the fact that the human being has the presence of God within them. If the student truly wishes to know the truth about reincarnation and life, they must turn to the source of life, the mighty I Am presence, and study there, for only when they receive the wisdom of their omniscient mind can they be that same light forever. If anyone wishes to verify for themselves the truth of incarnation, they can only obtain that proof through their own experiences revealed by their own inner God. A list of arguments or phenomena will never be proof for anyone seeking that proof. I give the following method, which is infallible, as the Ascended Masters have achieved the perfection of the Ascended state using it, and others can do the same if they choose. If the student recognizes and accepts with unyielding determination their mighty I Am presence, if they constantly invoke it and reach out to it, sincerely loving and thanking it for the wonderful life it pours out every second, a life that the student is using at all times, awake or asleep, this will cause the elevation of their outer consciousness, and then they will know, see, and experience the answer to every question and every problem they are confronting. Psychism. The student must understand that what is called the psychic plane has nothing to do with spirituality. It is only a human faculty that can be activated by those humans who pay enough attention to it. However, it should be noted that for anyone wishing to enter the psychic plane, consciously or unconsciously, it would have been better not to come to this incarnation, for the fascination with psychic phenomena is so overwhelming that anyone anchored in that plane does not remain in this incarnation. Rather, they may need several lives to achieve it. During periods of war, the door to the psychic plane opens more easily. That is why it is observable that after wars, there is a greater manifestation of uncontrolled passions than at any other time. Astral plane. In every astral element there is a basis of human desire. Unless the mind is completely closed to the astral world, one will find themselves constantly interrupted in every decision, for they will have left the door open to a force much more subtle than any of those acting in the physical world. Many think there are good forces in the astral world. I assure you that no force coming from the astral is ever good. Any good force that seems to come from there has made its own tunnel to pass through in the first place. The astral world forms a realm where undesirable human creations can be housed. This activity plane contains all the undesirable forms accumulated over the centuries. There are no children in the astral plane. The home of children who leave the earth is the etheric plane. Therefore, it is easy to realize that nothing good can come from any contact with the astral plane. It contains absolutely nothing of the Christ. The psychic plane contains only those creations generated by the discordant thoughts, feelings, and words of the outer activity or personal consciousness of all humanity, that is, the daily activities of the mind, body, and emotions with which the personality remains entangled. The entire race has become so entangled in its own discord that the great, glorious, and transcendent Ascended Masters, beyond the purest compassion for the delay in humanity's growth and the misery of its degradation, offer to tear away the veils of the psychic plane and give humanity a new opportunity. People are entertained, fascinated, and self-hypnotized by the various conditions of the psychic world, but knowing both the inner and outer activities of life, I assure you, from the point of view of the Ascended Masters, that there is nothing good or permanent in the psychic plane. It is as dangerous and uncertain as quicksand. The psychic plane and the outer activity of the mental and emotional worlds, unless they report perfection for you, are the same thing. They are entirely the creation of sensory consciousness and the accumulation of thoughts and forms energized by human feelings. They contain nothing of what is Christ. The cosmic light, the desire, and the fascination for psychic phenomena is a very subtle feeling through which the attention of the personality is kept away from the recognition, constant worship, continuous communion, and permanent acceptance of the mighty I Am presence of the individual. Paying attention to the activities of the psychic plane reduces the energy and ability of the personal self to reach the divine source and anchor there permanently. When I express that nothing of the Christ comes from the psychic plane, despite apparent evidence to the contrary, I communicate to you the eternal truth, for the psychic or outer activity of the mind is constantly changing its qualities, while the Christ, which is the eternal light, is continuously expanding perfection, the unique, supreme, unchanging, and imperishable quality. Due to the suggestive fascination and attention to the physical plane, humanity is today like a mass of children that need much help, and the wisdom of the ascended masters to elevate themselves once again to the understanding and harmony of the light, which is the only means of freeing themselves from the darkness and the present chaos of the earth. Since the end of the second golden age, saviors and world redeemers have come to this earth to offer this help. However, humanity has come to be fascinated with the world of forms and the creation of things. The attention of the individual has become increasingly trapped in external activities, and the conscious recognition of their own individualized divine self has been forgotten. As a result, the mighty presence and source that dwells in their electronic body has been completely ignored. Consequently, the individual has only been able to express a part of their life plan. Psychic forces in the psychic plane. The forces work directly on the sensory nature and passions of the individual because it is easier to reach there. Beings who lose the power to control or dominate their passions, anger or sex, become entangled in the psychic stratum of thought and feeling and open the doors of their beautiful and wonderful temples of God. Through these open doors, the forces of the psychic plane penetrate, intensifying their passions until the situation becomes uncontrollable. It would be better for these individuals to step on a rattlesnake. Once entangled in this psychic sphere, they often remain trapped for many incarnations. Why? Because they generate recordings in their mental world from which they do not know how to free themselves. Consequently, souls that fall into this state are reborn with the same tendencies, sometimes for 2 or 3 incarnations. They are the depraved creatures one can find wherever one goes. Sometimes the influence is so malicious that it hides from the outside world for a long time, conducting its nefarious work in secret. This is the most lamentable part of the situation. It seems to be hidden, but is not in the higher planes. There are great and beautiful souls that voluntarily descend to this plane to help through their radiation and to free humanity. There are more male and female volunteers, but most are female. There are beautiful souls embodied in female bodies who join in outer marriage with a male soul that is entangled in that psychic condition to liberate it. Frequently, individuals thus trapped possess acute sensitivity and remarkable accuracy in their sensory conditions, temporarily causing those who contact them to believe them. And now the truth about all this: those who, through their own efforts or the instruction they receive, come to understand exactly what the mighty I Am presence means, that is, the true being of each one. If they hold on to this truth, they will never again be dragged into the aforementioned discords unless, by their own will, they reach higher planes of activity where they know exactly what they are doing. This knowledge should not instill special fear in anyone regarding the psychic plane. If students find themselves consciously traversing it at any given moment, they must immediately become aware of this. I am the controlling, always victorious Master Presence, and they will instantly find the strength necessary to face appearances and pass through them serenely and without fear. Clairvoyance. There is not one person in 10,000 who understands that the awakening of clairvoyance is not something spiritual. When one begins to see in the psychic plane, one is merely using physical sight, but something expanded, that's all. In the psychic plane, suggestions are also received that offer a minimum of truth, just enough to awaken the subject's interest until the harmful psychic forces take hold of them. This can happen due to the fascination of the phenomenon, but one only needs to focus attention on the I Am presence for it to take them away from there and anchor them fully in the spiritual plane. When people mix with the matters of the psychic plane, they find that everything distorts. No definitive proof of the truth is obtained, and they fall into mental confusion. The entities of the psychic plane begin to prophesy and sometimes to praise. It is the first thing they do. They seek to place us under their dominion. Salvation lies in the fact that no one can oppose a messenger of light, and everyone who works in the I Am presence is a messenger of light. Its radiation causes those who oppose to receive the reaction, as light rejects everything that is not equal to itself. Psychic phenomena. The sincere student will not pay attention to the psychic phenomena of clairvoyance or clairaudience. They must understand that through the power of their inner will, the blue flame, and their determination, they must enter directly into the electronic circle where only the truth is expressed. You must understand that in all things, in every activity, there is more or less divine energy in action, misused perhaps, but still in action. Beloved student, as I explain the following that is necessary for you to know, I want you to resolve to feel no fear within the thoughts and feelings of the psychic level. What is known in this world as the sinister force acts here. Sometimes, souls that have achieved splendid inner accomplishments, not understanding the reality of what I am mentioning, allow their attention to stop or be drawn to this level because they are prematurely awakened to one of these faculties, and because a semblance of truth is presented to them alongside sufficient phenomena to capture their attention. Once the attention is fixed, all enters into the semblance of truth, disappears. One of the most fascinating attributes of this plane is the false prophecies that cause the individual to make even bolder ones. Now and then, some come true to capture attention more strongly. Along with this, a substance is introduced into the brain. I cannot explain more now, which makes it impossible for the master to interfere to help because it would involve acting against the free will of the subject who has accepted the situation. In some cases, the subject understands the error before it is too late, and in response to their intense invocation for liberation, one of the brothers is sent to this end. Occasionally there is someone who, due to their great purity, passes through this plane without knowing or contacting it. That individual is truly very fortunate. Astrology. The use currently made of astrology bears no resemblance to that of centuries ago. In the past, it did not convey negative statements of any kind. Focusing attention on it causes great harm, for students accept negative assertions much more than they wish to admit. The negative, sinister force generated by humanity in the world always makes use of things like this to attract and capture attention, especially that of the progressing student, thus keeping them focused on what pulls them down instead of elevating them. Today's astrology constantly throws obstacles in the individual's path. The idea that one of God's days is more perfect than another for the children of God is the most absurd thing one can imagine. I'm surprised that people's thinking is so superficial that they do not see or realize the absurdity of the case. Every negative interpretation of astrology is only what individuals give it. Originally, astrology was used to attract the attention of great beings with whom the individual was naturally harmonized so that they could receive the radiation and elevation of those great beings. The idea that individuals are affected by the radiation of a planet that is in no way a personal force is a distortion of reality that is perfectly absurd. For a force to operate, there must be an intelligence behind it. Consequently, knowing that God is the power that acts upon all things in the universe, we know that the quality of any planetary intelligence can only be good unless the mind of the individual requalifies it. Below the current use of astrology lies human desire and the opportunity to justify and satisfy external desires. What humanity needs more than anything, especially students, is the firm rock and consciousness of the mighty I Am presence upon which one remains safe and free from the abysses composed of external machinations. One of the saddest things I have to tell you is that many of those who try to create horoscopes are unconsciously binding themselves to the psychic plane. They are becoming sensitive and turning into spokespersons for the adverse conditions that exist only in the aforementioned plane. This is one of the most lamentable activities, because the being is unaware that they have opened themselves to a belief that envelops them to the point where no argument or reasoning will change their convictions. Astrology has been used for this purpose more than anything else. Many times, the thought or radiation of the psychic plane communicates through astrology that certain conditions will manifest in the individual's life, and that they cannot be avoided. If this is not said in words, it will be felt. This is one of the reasons that led to the sinking of Atlantis, and the reason why the Atlanteans refused to listen to the voice of the masters of wisdom who warned them. I understand, beloved student, that if you are interested in horoscopes, you may think I am harsh. But that is not the case. My love for you is great enough to tell you the pure truth. If you cannot believe it, you will have to continue on your own path, for you are a being with free will, and I have no intention of attacking it, except to say that I have the privilege of pointing out the path to you. Attention must always be fixed on the I Am presence. When a horoscope announces someone's death, several minds fixate on that idea, and indirectly, a true crime is committed so subtly that individuals would be horrified if it were demonstrated to them that they participated in it. But that is the truth. If you could see for a day from the great internal viewpoint the destructive force generated through the current use of astrology, you would flee from it, as from a poisonous viper waiting to bite you and introduce death into your veins. I can show you documents of the most horrifying crimes that are committed day by day through the suggestion of astrology. The suggestion throne puts the law into action to fulfill it. When your attention rests on something, you instantly give it the power within you. If astrologers do not stop holding the thought of death over such and such person, for example, she will die. This is criminal. Such and such is a child of God and has the right to live here for all the time decreed. There are far worse crimes than physical murder, which do not even compare, because they are committed deliberately by people who know what they are doing. There is a certain and infallible action of the law, and that is that those who do certain things must pay the penalty, suffering a similar experience. When you give power to astrology, you are placing dynamite on your own path. I assure you, beloved, that my heart bleeds for those enslaved by astrology, for they are so blind to the thorny path they tread that when the agony of these wounds becomes unbearable, they will cry out to heaven and with all their being will plead, "O God, show me the true way." Students do not need to know the negative designs of a future mind or the so-called force of the ill star of destiny. They must only credit the invincible I Am presence that permeates everything. It is the only and all life of your being toward which your attention needs to be directed, and where it must be firmly maintained. In the I Am presence, there is no height that the student cannot reach, but if they distract their attention with astrology, numerology, and the many logies of today, there will be no abyss they do not fall into. Beloved student, you who seek the light with such effort, you must know that there is only one presence that is your invincible protection, and that is the great I Am presence, God in you. Do not let your attention be distracted by these external manifestations, astrology, numerology, spiritualism, or anything else that diverts your attention from the great I Am presence, which is your real being. If you focus your attention on it at all times, it will guide you along the path of light, with that stillness that will allow you to enter the great silence, to the peace that surpasses all understanding, where you will find the greatest activity of God. The I Am presence cannot serve two masters. No living being can pay attention to astrology and at the same time enter into the presence of the I Am and remain there. Let's suppose I decreed, "I am the mighty I Am presence in action," and then an hour later, I allowed my attention to fixate on an unfavorable horoscope or an external condition that indicates some kind of disaster. Don't you realize that this would nullify the decree made by me, which would otherwise unleash the power of freedom? I assure you that you cannot progress if you empower anything other than your mighty I Am presence. Beloved, you cannot serve two masters at once and then achieve victory. Since you have free will, you must choose. If you choose the external, forgetting the invincible I Am presence, then although my love will continue to envelop you in its great mantle of protection, we will have to wait until you choose to return to the one God. If you choose your I Am presence and remain with it, your troubles will soon end. You will find yourself moving in a sphere of peace, harmony, and perfection, from where you will observe the outer world with great compassion, but never with the human pity that stifles your own growth. This reminds us of the ancient saying, "Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all else will be added unto you." That kingdom of heaven is the great I Am presence, your only reality, the owner and giver of all created and manifested things. We will not revisit this point again. May the I Am presence within you empower you to see the light and truth in what I have told you. Unfortunately, many students do not firmly grasp the mighty truth of their being long enough to gain the momentum and strength needed to remain unmoved before the magnetic pull of suggestions and external appearances. However, having gone through the same, we have infinite patience to wait until beloved students can wield the scepter of dominion of their mighty I Am presence and hold it. I have offered you my humble assistance of my own will, but if the personality insists on allowing its attention to settle on something other than the mighty I Am presence, which I know is the only and mighty elevating and solving presence for all problems, then my humble efforts will have been in vain. May humility guide students not to misunderstand this. I wish to assure you that this has nothing to do with the so-called spiritualism as it has apparently been understood until today. The ascended being who has reached limitless heights of understanding through their self-conscious effort is so advanced compared to the average individual that, due to lack of understanding, they have left the physical body, as light is far from darkness. One of the greatest stumbling blocks in the path of many serious students is their inclination to consult mediums instead of focusing their attention on the mighty I Am presence, the God who knows all above, within and around oneself. A sincere student is not permitted to visit mediums, as this means they are dividing their own obedience once again. Therefore, the mighty God within us, the one and only God, commands, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." Wherever your attention is, there is your God. There flows your energy, and your energy is your life. Do not get involved, my dear student. You might only listen to this. Please understand there is no discordant activity that is not an intrusion of psychic forces into your emotional world. Do you understand now? Well, it is nothing to fear. It is not something to be disturbed about. Simply, if you understand what is acting, then you will be firm, holding self-control, and you will be warned the moment something disharmonious begins to act. Then you will receive a signal that it is a sinister, undesirable thing that must be categorically discarded. You have within your own possession everything necessary to rid yourself of every disturbance or sinister thing, whether it is something projected towards you, something you have individually accumulated, or anything else. If you cling tenaciously to your I Am presence, you will never have to fear any of the things I have referred to, because the I Am presence will correct you. It will keep you steady on the true path of light, ascending the golden ladder with defined, precise steps until achieving its full and perfect dominion. I am very pleased to offer all possible assistance to the students, and I do so with the best of intentions. However, there are certain limits that I cannot surpass, because students must advance by themselves in their consciousness. Nevertheless, I must warn you that you cannot offer the I Am presence a divided attention. Doing so is equivalent to directing a stream of energy to empower these negative things, and you are simply delaying your progress. I speak from experience. It is not possible to divide attention between the I Am presence and external things. If one wishes to rise beyond, when psychic forces manifest in your environment, stop them immediately. Do not involve yourself with them. You do not know, as I do, how I have dealt with those human creations for centuries, how treacherous and deceptive those psychic matters are when they know their end is approaching in the world. The moment has come, I assure you. In the future, I myself will confront these conditions in their first appearance in such a way that no record begins or accumulates. It seems incredible that such conditions still exist in humanity. Nonetheless, they do. Do not let these situations deceive you. Continue invoking the I Am presence so that these deceits may be dissolved and consumed. The demon. The idea of a demon has generated much ignorance and superstition. One of the reasons why the idea of a demon was conceived is that in every period or place where humans have incarnated, there have been very dynamic individuals in the use of energy. They misdirected energy, producing what is called a demon. In addition to this, they created thought forms so powerfully charged that vice, ignorance, and disembodied intelligences took possession of them or entered those thought forms. These forms were energized by their creators, who still incarnated, gave tremendous power and activity to these vicious and ignorant entities. Before the ministry of Jesus, these entities were frequently able to appear visibly in very grotesque forms, thus giving rise to the idea of a demon. But I assure you, there has never been and will never be a demon outside of the discordant creation of humans. Superstitions have burdened the outer being with such fear that they have paralyzed, so to speak, the many paths that could lead them to their freedom. There is no demon in the universe except for the inharmony of thoughts and feelings of the individual and humanity. Satan. The great deception about what Satan and the demon really mean is frightening. Many names have been given to this so-called majestic presence of the demon, but I assure you that the majestic presence is only one. Demon and hell both derive from the word Satan, And the root of this, its true and essential meaning, is to turn away from that which is disharmonious. It was ready to assume the truth of its own being. It had to devise something to blame for its own creations. The word Satan arose as a simple explanation to tell humanity to turn away from their own disharmonious creations, and that this turning away would allow them to find God ever active within themselves. Again, the moment came when humanity wanted someone else to blame for their own erroneous creations and brought in the defenseless serpent into the garden. The serpent represents nothing more than the misdirection of the solar energy of the great central sun within the human being. This solar energy is a great dynamic power and is always active. Once again, let us repeat that humanity, having free will, can choose how it will use that energy. If you do not consciously direct it toward something good, toward a constructive purpose, it will act in some way, often through the suggestions of the environment or individuals, since energy is always subject to suggestion. The serpent will become a dove over time. God and his noble messengers have observed the cruelty of human beings and have elevated them a little higher at every opportunity. Finally, the cosmic signal has been heard that predicts the descent of the mighty and active presence of Christ, God in action, which will pull humanity from the venomous jaws of the serpent so that its forces can be voluntarily returned upward forever. Then the serpent will become a dove, for the serpent was first conceived in the outer mind of the human being by the misuse of God's wonderful energy. Thus, it was diverted from its rightful and celestial course, which is always upward. The dragon. Originally, the idea of the dragon was conceived by ancient Chinese civilization. At that time, the misdirection of solar force created, instead of a thought form that resembled a human, a thought form that resembled a serpent, since for generations they had been taught and had known the creative power as the power of the serpent. This caused the mental creation to take that form. This tradition has been carried by the Chinese to the present, as you can observe in the Chinese New Year ceremony, where they disguise themselves as a dragon to drive away evil spirits. But this is only a distortion of the great wisdom they once enjoyed. Fu Manchu. There was once in the East a secret society originating in China that was gloriously maintained in the light until the person at the head of the order thought that his daughter, whom he loved very much, had been murdered by an Englishman during a looting in the war. This brought about the destruction of the order. A portrayal of this story in the outer world is the representations of Fu Manchu, a perfect example of how light can be distorted by something that begins as a feeling of vengeance. In the beginning of the story, the so-called Fu Manchu was a beautiful and admirable soul. This demonstrates how the ravages caused by war and the lack of control of thought and feeling by the individual can bring about great distortion in the current of life. Transmigration. There was a time in human history when the conscious division began between the constructive and destructive use of internal power and energy through the power of black magic or the misuse of energy. Sometimes a soul was forced to leave its body and enter another. An animal body was created, and the soul was compelled to use it. This situation gave rise to the legend of the transmigration of souls. This occurred only during a period in history. The ascended host consumed and dissolved that activity forever. But the memory that has never been erased from the etheric record still remains. From time to time, individuals arise who, having contacted that record, keep alive this idea that should have been forgotten long ago. The human soul never evolves through an animal form. The external atomic structure used in the formation of human bodies is the prepared condition for it. This is the last step on the scale from atomic structure to electronic. The human soul came directly from God. That is why it could not have evolved from the animal group soul. The human soul must return to God to comprehend the absolute certainty of the law of free will, the law of God's fullness, passing through each stage of experience, regaining that perfection through the conscious understanding of all phases of the activity of life. Preservation of energy. Assistance is provided to students when they are taught that the gratification of sex is a necessity. Upon leaving the body, they encounter those who have the correct knowledge and provide the necessary help. I urge you with all the powers of light to maintain the purity and perfection of your presence, and before any undesirable emotion that may arise in you, if you desire help, invoke your presence of life, myself, or any other ascended master. Rest assured that when you make that invocation, your old habits will not disturb you again, and if they do from time to time, then, with great calmness and serenity, affirm, "Oh, very well. Out of here. You have no power." In that calm serenity, you will free yourself from any undesirable situation that may have originated in the past when you thought it was fine. It is not, my friend. Do you understand? That is why we, the Ascended Masters, are necessary. When you encountered the mighty I Am presence, perhaps you thought you would not require our service. But I assure you that until you have gained complete conviction and have invoked enough momentum from your mighty I Am presence to carry you forward, you will not have the strength or the courage to resist. We have that strength. We have the ability to discharge that strength into your world. Feelings. We are not asking you to obey us. We are asking you to obey life, your own life. In this way, your life will take charge of your unclean being to produce health, strength, happiness, and perfection. And there you will find victory, attraction. In your relationships with the feminine and masculine activities of life, be very careful when you meet someone of the opposite sex with whom you feel total harmony and who is not your spouse. Suppose you are in a partnership, married or not. Life has not been harmonious the moment you contact someone of the opposite sex, and this person manifests great kindness and harmony. It is natural to feel attracted to them, but that does not mean you should have impure thoughts. You should rejoice that someone is pouring such pure divine radiation. Learn to distinguish that harmony you feel. There is no animal activity in it. I have seen the type of situations that arise due to a lack of understanding regarding this point, and that is why today I want to do everything possible to clarify it. This is something that works both ways. I have seen cases of blessed ladies of light with a beautiful and wonderful expansion of light within them who, for some reason, were drawn into an unharmonious association. These ladies, upon meeting someone of the opposite sex who was gentle and harmonious, felt a tremendous power of attraction toward that harmony. Not understanding these laws, sooner or later they took that attraction as something physical. That is not all. The need for harmony, which is the internal longing of those individuals, also comes into play, and it is what attracts one to another. If they do not understand it, this becomes the activity of some human quality. If humans understood this, what transformation would take place in their lives? All those who have been immersed in discord and touch the world of someone who is truly harmonious feel it is heaven on earth, is it not? The reason is that the person in whom they feel that great harmony has manifested the great harmony of life in action. My friend, do you see now how the human being can enjoy immense happiness? If one understands life, the control of attention for the individual who has been using this energy without thinking of governing it, the act of saying, "I will leave this," without a conscious understanding of the correct attitude, would simply suppress a flow of energy that they have caused to flow in a different and wrong direction. Many people believe they can control sexual desire purely by willpower, forcing themselves to dominate the impulse, whether it is sexual, to consume alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, or any vice. This is useless because what happens is repression of the desire, forcing it to burst out in another way. The only thing one can do is control attention and draw it away as follows. I am the presence that changes this and changes it now. For the action of God is always instantaneous. For the student who wishes to govern themselves, here is the statement that is the most effective if used with understanding. It is the great affirmation of Jesus, I am the resurrection and the life. This affirmation not only purifies thought, but is the most powerful elevating and adjusting force that can be used to correct what constitutes the greatest barrier to achieving spiritual elevation. Anyone who begins to feel the inner urge to correct this condition and who uses this affirmation continuously and firmly will elevate this wonderful current of life to the highest point of the brain as it was originally intended. The individual will feel their mind flooded with the most wonderful ideas, with abundant sustaining power, and with the ability that comes to expression and use to bless all humanity. I ask students to practice and observe the results in their mind and body. I tell our youth what a magnificent opportunity they have to reach victory. My friend, I guide you about your moral values, as I have seen many blessed-hearted human beings fall under the domination of sexual desire, for the sinister force takes advantage of them, increasing their desires to the point that these people feel unable to control them and succumb to them. I urge you not to give in to these situations. Invoke your presence to free you and maintain its invincible protection around you. It is the only way you can achieve the victory of freedom. I tell you frankly that you have been made to believe that you can satisfy your sexual desires unlimitedly and maintain success. You cannot do it. Frankly, I tell you, after observing humanity for centuries, that you cannot do it. If you waste your energy in the pursuit of pleasure, one day you will find yourself exhausted, without strength or energy, and the success that was once your will have disappeared from your life. These are great laws. Do not allow accumulated desire to govern you any longer. Human or external consciousness is terribly stubborn. Remember that the human octave extends from the surface of the earth to about 2,000 meters in height, varying in certain locations and conditions. But that is the only place where sexual desire exists. I want you to understand this, and the reason I address it is that you need it. The pressure that this desire exerts on people in cities is tragic, and unless you are strong and resilient in your invocation to the presence to protect you from that desire, you will succumb to it. Through your invocation, you will become part of the victory of light. As you conserve energy in your body and reach that resistance and power, your invocation to the presence will spring forth like dynamite itself, and you will receive an immediate response to the invocation. You are a power you cannot yet imagine. Your presence is the doer. Your invocation releases its omnipotent intelligence and vigor into action. By gaining that momentum and conserving energy when you make the invocation, it will be propelled like a projectile towards the target, and the matter will be accomplished. I will fervently invoke the strength, courage, and power to act in your emotional world and discharge the power, intelligence, and energy of your own presence that will sustain you until you achieve the victory you can attain. But remember, if you waste energy, you should not expect success. That cannot be achieved. You are not being deprived of anything. On the contrary, everything that life possesses is offered to you. 5 minutes of attention to the presence, without those powerful currents of energy that charge you with the enthusiasm and lightness of youth, are much more rewarding than a lifetime of satisfying sexual desire. You move in the external world amid a seething vortex of suggestions wherever you go. Unless you are strong enough to confront it and repel it, you will accept it within your feelings even without knowing it. The first thing you will know is that desire is beginning to act, and as it gains momentum, the propelling force will compel you to satisfy it. In this way, your energy will vanish, and you will not achieve the victorious accomplishment that may be right in front of you. I urge you not to give in to these situations of freedom. This is practical. My friend, this is not about moral values, but about the waste of that energy that should be conserved in your body to give you the courage, strength, and power necessary to achieve victory. It is the only way to do it. Return the energy to the presence. The need today is to retain the powerful energy of the presence in the body. Return it to the presence so that the powerful ray of light that emanates outward can carry that substance from the octave of the physical body to your world of activity through physical results. It is the only way to achieve victory. Health, strength, courage, and the power of success only come through that current of life and energy from your own powerful presence of God, I am. But if you let it go, where will your energy be retained? The individual who wishes to ascend to the I am presence and live there needs precisely the energy that humanity in general wastes. Doctors, in particular, have sadly distorted things. They are largely responsible for this terrible situation because they teach and advocate for the exaltation of sexual appetite, which is humanity's greatest channel of waste. This makes it impossible to go far enough into the I am presence to achieve mastery. It constitutes 95% of what causes aging, loss of sight, hearing, and memory, as these faculties cease to function when the flow of vital energy to the cellular structure of the brain stops. But individuals do not receive this well until they learn it through hard knocks. Will alone cannot achieve anything without this vital energy. This energy that humans waste is the force that would allow them to unite firmly with the presence. This is the life they need to cling to the presence of God I am. An open drain occurs when the outer being has spent centuries using its vital force to generate erroneous conditions. This waste becomes a constantly open faucet against individual consciousness. It is right to use sex to bring forth a new form into life and procreate, but it was never intended for sex to exist to satisfy pleasure, because that is wasting life. Notice that wherever your attention is, there you are, and there is most of your energy. The external has a subtle and peculiar ability to utilize every opportunity presented to cause a leak in the great reservoir of divine energy. Humanity is doomed to energy loss through the satisfaction of sexual pleasure, but I assure you that one can lose energy just as easily without that external gratification by allowing thought to insist on the idea. There is only one way to change what has been generated by that erroneous channel that keeps human beings bound to misuse and the incorrect manifestation of life. Every time the occasion or expression of the false concept arises, direct your thought instantly to the higher self. Wasted energy. I speak to you frankly because I want you to know these things. You need that energy in your body. It is your life that you are squandering. You waste it through anger, jealousy, hatred, and all those sorts of things. But worst of all, you waste it through sexual energy, and all the destructive forces of humanity are centered on human beings with a single idea: to make them waste their energy so that they cannot maintain their own presence and life power, and thus cannot attain their freedom. I won't tell you what to do, that would be out of place, but I present you with the law, even if you may not understand it yet. The ascended Master Jesus said that the last enemy to be conquered is death. And how does death come about? In reality, death does not exist. He referred to the change through which the current of life is released. Physically, friend, when the desire descends below the heart, you are dragging yourself towards the so-called death, which one day will release the energy of your body until you can no longer hold on to it. And that is the only reason for the so-called death: wasted energy. Pay attention to the solar plexus. The dividing line is just above the hips. It is the line that divides the divine from the human. If your attention is focused on sexual desires, you send all the energy downward, away from the heart and mind. How do you expect your intelligence to prevent you from making mistakes if you do that? This is practical. It is the most practical thing in the world. I cannot tell you what to do to govern those desires, but I can communicate to you what the law has been for centuries. Look at young people aged 18, 19, 20, sometimes 22 years old, full of energy and vitality and unlimited potential. Then let them fall into sexual excesses and observe how quickly that beauty, energy, and unlimited vitality disappear. What is wasted through that desire is life, vitality, energy. Everything in the external world has encouraged them to do such things, but that is nothing more than ignorance of the highest order. If humanity wants to do that, it will also have to reap the consequences. I love having the opportunity to present the truth of life to humanity. Now they must choose how to use it. Light in the body. Friend, please understand that I know each of your desires, and I know this. If you train yourself to say at the moment you feel the slightest sexual desire, "Powerful presence I am," take away this desire and replace it with your satisfaction and perfection. This desire will be forced to disappear, and you will be the governing power of your sensory and emotional world, which will attract and elevate you to that perfection where eventually that desire will completely disappear. Even when you're in the presence of someone who has that desire, you will be guided so quickly that it will not act in your world. With this, I do not mean that humanity should not use the force of life for the procreation of its species, as that is still necessary. However, that is already enough. Humanity succumbs to these conditions because it does not understand that the waste of that energy is precisely what has made it prey to destructive forces. Understand me when I say that I long for the day when the great law of life allows me to stand before you in my tangible body and show you what it means to conserve the energy of life. The day I can stand before you and ignite the light of my body to fill this space, radiating from my head, my throat, my heart, and my hands. Those powerful rays directly towards you, then you will understand what it means to conserve the energy of life. The reason we, as ascended beings, have unlimited power is that in the ascended state, there are no desires of that kind. There is no such thing as sexual desire in the ascended state. That belongs only to the human octave. Marriage, perhaps one of the most lamentable states under which human beings must live, is the so-called legal right to bind another to sexual activity when that being already wishes to free themselves and rise above. For even in the ignorance of the outer mind, there are natures that have a powerful development of love activity. If an individual reaches the point of marrying in a human wedding and invokes their inner God, saying that, If this wedding is based on a passionate desire that should not be acted upon, they can avoid great suffering and torture. An idle mind is the workshop of the devil. Idle minds are the most dangerous thing for humanity because sinister forces direct their attention towards them, in dance halls or in schools, universities, or anywhere else. That sinister thing has made its presence known in diabolical and suggestive movements through jazz, quickly dragging all the youth towards sexual desire. This sinister force knows that it means ruin for all humanity. Therefore, I offer you with all my heart the love and kindness of this precious information. Friend, please occupy your mind. Read, study, do something to keep your mind free from sexual desire. That is what humanity needs right now. Do not misunderstand me. I'm not criticizing anyone, but I am exposing the law, and I know it is absolutely the only way by which humanity can free itself from the conditions that exist today. Preserving power. I can tell you from all my vast experience that there is nothing so difficult to bear as seeing people wandering here and there along the path of light. I believe it is the hardest thing anyone has to experience in the human octave. You do not come to understand what I mean by this unless you can see it from our perspective in the octave of light. You will not be able to understand exactly what I mean, but for us this is something tremendous and we must always remain serene. Friend, my love for you is great. Having gone through human experiences has given me complete knowledge of what humanity experiences. I was a businessman in the world for 400 years without losing outer consciousness for a single second. Even before my ascension, I was able to keep my body filled with health, strength, and perfection for many years. Therefore, I know what it is to be human. I know the intrigues woven in different countries of the world because I was in all of them in Europe in centuries past. For being capable of doing things like this, I was accused of everything that exists on the face of the earth except the truth. But that, friend, is not part of what occupies me. Those who accused me will one day face those accusations and will know them for themselves. In most cases, when human beings cannot find their own way, they become very vicious. When individuals become vicious, they are simply left to go, and one day that same vice destroys them. Currently, I have found a great number of people who desire the constructive path of life and who are willing to obey life. This brings me to touch on a point of vital importance. When you cannot be affected in any other way in the world, the destructive forces will try to reach you through moral values. They will attempt to awaken in you abnormal sexual activities, to drain your energies, and consequently strip you of the resistance and strength that connect you to the presence of life, or prevent you from making your invocation for the assistance you require. Friend, I know humanity from A to Z. I also lived in a physical body like yours. I know the touch of every human being and the earthly desire of people to a degree that they themselves cannot even imagine or understand. Therefore, I am in a position to provide assistance, to offer help. I have no criticism towards any human being on the face of this earth. All humanity has made enough mistakes, but that is no longer important. What truly matters is to correct them. Therefore, if you do not preserve the resistance and power in your physical body, in your mental and emotional world, you will be lost. Taking this point into account, students can become an invincible power on the face of this earth, and there will be no one in this world who can challenge or stop them. Throughout the ages, there have been certain codes of conduct that every student needs to follow if they wish to achieve certain goals. This is about the conservation and governance of vital force through sex. When they waste sexual energy, they deprive themselves of everything they need to achieve victory and success in the external world. Humanity has not understood this appropriate use of sex. The nature of the principle of life in the individual is to love. The external activity of sex is a perverted interpretation of original perfection and purity. The pure and appropriate use of sex is to expand love in the procreation of a form so that the soul coming into incarnation can have a character and temperament that is loving and harmonious. The thoughts and feelings of the parents are shaping activities. When you observe seemingly incorrect sexual activity, elevate the consciousness of the character to an ideal so that their mind comes under conscious control. In this way, their sexual activity will ascend to a higher plane. Human creation has unfortunately led humanity further into this selfish human folly of thinking that it is castrating to admit the existence of God. This is nothing but the ignorant and foolish expression of some human being. God is the power that gives them life and the physical body, and the human being or nation that ignores God in their world will dissolve and disappear from this planet. That has been the ruin of every civilization that has ever existed on the face of the earth. There is only one power in the universe that can make people alert to these things. That power is the invocation to the mighty and powerful presence, I Am. That is what humanity needs today. Do not be deceived wherever you can inform people about what is right. Try to do so. We know that the time will come when humanity will have to know the conditions they are facing in order to understand and begin to invoke the great power of light into action, to see and govern these conditions, which is impossible for the human part. I tell you, my friend, I know each of your requirements, and I know that unless you obey that life, it will succumb to the pressure of human creation. In the name of the beloved mighty presence I Am, we say to all human creation, not by the victory of the sacred fire you have no power, your days are over. Dissolve yourself with ease and disappear from the face of the earth forever. Decreeing that these creations be consumed and dissolved is a very important part of the work, since this achievement is not just temporary. On the contrary, when the great cosmic light descends willingly with this grand power, which will happen, the activity of this light will take charge of human qualifications. This will allow it to do a great cleansing, so to speak, by consuming and dissolving the conditions currently manifesting in the atmosphere of the earth, which is its perfect attitude. I speak to individuals who want to solve their problems. There is only one presence in the universe that can and always resolves any situation, and that is the presence I Am, present everywhere. Beloved, let me tell you with great affection that it is of no value to try to solve a problem alone, for where there was one, a dozen may appear. But when you know that the perfect attitude is to enter into the presence I Am, and that it is the one that resolves indisputably every problem, you make all problems disappear with the same certainty with which I speak to you. For when you live in the presence I Am constantly, calmly, and with sufficient determination, instead of having many problems where one had been solved, you enter a state in which there are none. Each experience that presents itself to the individual has a double purpose. First, to draw their attention to the only creative source, God. Second, to make the individual aware that in that supreme consciousness rests the instant solution to anything they need to know. We do not receive this by stretching out our hands and crying for help, but by doing exactly the opposite, maintaining calm and stillness in the external so that there is not a wave of disturbance in our consciousness. Then, we will quickly find the solution to everything we need. The solution to every problem is always at hand, because the presence I Am always has all things within itself. In the face of problems, it is very powerful to hold the simple awareness of presence I Am. God in me, manifest yourself, govern and resolve this situation harmoniously. This will work miracles. For the whole is to instantly invoke the presence I Am and put it to work. Jesus said, "Ask, and it shall be given to you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened to you." So tell your divine self, "Hear me, God. Come here and take care of this." God wants you to put it to work. This opens the flow to divine energy, intelligence, and substance that leap to fulfill the order. No one should feel anxious or discouraged by external conditions when, in a few moments of contemplation, it can be revealed that there is only one power, energy, and activity to use, or that is being used: God. When one depends on this supreme presence and demands the perfect solution to any problem or situation, it is resolved with the most wonderful divine activity. The divine solution will enormously transcend what the external mind can conceive, even if it had the power in itself to achieve it. Knowing that the external mind or consciousness is the powerful vehicle through which the tremendous energy of God can be directed consciously, we know that we have around us at all times this presence that constitutes the most powerful protection and direction, the supreme power that resolves every situation that presents itself before us. The issue is not as easy as resolving a problem and thinking that no further effort is needed, but rather to keep invoking the powerful internal presence, recognizing and accepting it, to see that the foolish human problems are consumed instantly. In this way, the very divinity keeps you free from all external disturbance or limiting conditions. Allow me to tell you again, mighty presence I Am, reveal to me the true solution to this situation in which I find myself. Come with your wisdom and strength and resolve this in divine order without delaying another moment. I acknowledge that you do not need time, space, or place, and that your powerful activity manifests now. I accept this fulfilled. Seeking God only to solve a problem opens the door partially, but seeking God, the mighty presence I am, with true sincerity and devotion to the light of God, will quickly solve external problems in peace and harmony, according to the recognition that has been achieved of the mighty presence I am in action. One of the great mistakes that individuals make is to take external appearances too seriously, and because of this, they give them some power. For example, an apparent accident occurs and most people say, "Oh, it's horrible," when in reality it may be the best thing that could happen to the individual and to everyone connected to them. Throughout the centuries, humanity has given its attention to appearances, thus inviting all kinds of discord and discomfort. But today, there are thousands who are coming to understand that the presence of God within them is absolutely invincible, to the point of continually finding themselves elevated above injustice, discord, and disharmony. The inner God will find them surrounded by the undesirable, but through this presence I am, each one has the power to rise above the discord and disturbances of that outer creation. Keep your dynamic treatments high, knowing that these appearances have no power. Continue performing this service with firm and powerful determination. The world of appearances is not real. It only has the power to affect humanity through the attention it holds on it. I want you to understand that no discordant thing can reach you except through the power of your vision, your physical sight, or the power of your attention. When your attention is fixed on something, you are feeding it with your life energy, through which that quality, if disharmonious, will return and come into action in your world. If humanity understood this single point, it would govern and exclude the world of appearances from its world of activity to the extent that there would be nothing to disturb it in any way. I wish to anchor within your emotional world such a power of action that you do not lose sight of the following. The only reason why you find yourself limited at present, financially or in other aspects, is that you have given power to the world of appearances. Once this condition is introduced, it tells you and your physical body you are limited, even though you have made mistakes that have allowed that appearance to temporarily maintain its dominion. This has not come to have power in the understanding of life that I am presenting to you with these words. Now, by removing your attention from the appearance, it will dissolve and disappear because it will not have your life to feed on and sustain itself. Therefore, be firm and do not yield to this. Do not allow your attention to rest on discordant things that limit you in the full activity of life. You possess the power, the invocation to dissolve, consume, and free yourself forever from all these conditions. This is absolutely categorical. It is totally certain that your invocation will produce these results if you do not allow your attention to dwell on discord and allow it to be the governing power that unfolds in your world. When you give attention to the presence and give it all the attention of your life so that it can amplify and expand it, you are providing your attention to the origin of all creation on earth. When you place your attention on human appearances, you are giving attention to something that has a limited power of energy, and that, for the moment, has manifested itself. It has no true power. Therefore, you should not be subject to the pains and limitations of the world of appearances. It is very important that you understand this, and know that when you withdraw attention from this limiting world full of appearances and discord, you are returning it to where it belongs, to the presence of life, to the mighty I Am. Then, through the higher mental body, the mighty I Am downloads into your world of activity, its infinite power, its unlimited energy, and its powerful guiding intelligence. Beloved student, allow me to remind you of the difference between reality and what humanity has modified. The atmosphere you breathe is the fiery breath of God. If you truly understood this and held it firmly within your senses, it would be impossible for you to breathe anything that would harm your body. You have qualified the substance of the cities with the power of germs and everything that deteriorates it. My friend, you know that the light within your body is impervious to all kinds of germs, except by the power of the qualification that admits them. Now, there are particles of substance that the medical world calls germs, which are naturally imperfections. But the light has been there in the human structure as the impervious protection. Nevertheless, humanity insists on giving power to these foreign things to enter and harm them. And of course, you are the authority, as you have free will to invite those things to enter your bodies and wreak havoc. The essence of humanity has already begun to dissolve in the atmosphere of the earth. This may sound somewhat confusing to you, but it is very tangible, my friend. You are dealing with this substance at every moment of your life. This substance has been qualified by humanity and has charged and filled the atmosphere of the earth to the point that today humans find themselves under its pressure. Unless they understand the presence of life to dissolve it, they will remain under this pressure. Currently, many thousands of students have already achieved this, but there are still those who feel this sense of limitation and pressure. In reality, a little more firmness and determination is required when invoking the presence completely. Then you will be able to advance within the presence of life without limitations, with full confidence in your presence of life, the owner and director of all you need to produce happiness and perfection in your world or in the human octave. If you could understand this once and for all and immediately begin to rid yourself of those elements, we ask for nothing more than your obedience to life, and all will someday, somewhere, have to offer it. Those who misuse mental power bind themselves to disharmony, incarnation after incarnation. Make the following affirmation. I do not accept or adopt conditions from the outer environment or from what surrounds me, only from God, the good of my I am. Like the dawn, when the presence of God is visualized and firmly held within what seem to be destructive conditions, they disappear like dew before a bright dawn. As you will see, beyond the apparent chaos, immense blessings can be drawn upon humanity at all times. It should be remembered that the external is nothing but the shifting sand of external human creation. It is impermanent. It is the privilege of every student to become a wonderful messenger of light. Some will say, but how do I find time to do this with all the external activity I have? I assure you that anyone who tries will find more and more time each day to do this work. Let go of all concerns and focus joyfully and determinedly on that powerful and unique presence I am. It provides us with a continuous flow of victories. No effort made in the name of the presence I am can ever fail. But one must continue advancing from one victory to another until reaching and being able to use the scepter of its complete dominion. The conscious use of the presence I am is the same as the consciously directed use of this energy toward an achievement. It must always be a joyful effort. It should never, under any circumstance, be like work or tension. For when you decree, I am the presence and the intelligence directing this energy toward a specific purpose, you are putting the law into motion in a perfect, easy, calm way, and you do not need to exert any effort like pulling hairs. Therefore, it must always be a calm, serene, and determined procedure. Even if an impulse suddenly generates anger, a conscious and joyful determination is at least 20 times more effective, and this can be generated consciously and at will. How wonderful it is to enter joyfully into the awareness of how unlimited is the power of God in every treatment performed to resolve worldly situations, with the exception of those applied to certain evil forces. It is advisable to use this powerful and tremendous feeling, no matter how much one may be oriented towards some destructive conditions. If one can decree with great enthusiasm and joy that these conditions have no power, that they are dissolved and consumed, astonishing results will occur. However, when things seem serious or dangerous, it is not always easy to generate this great joy and enthusiasm. The joyful indifference of youth is truly a letting go that, with love reigning, is the greatest power for manifestation. It should be no problem for the student to see and understand that the external appearance is only the distorted creation of a human being who believes that there is a source of power apart from himself. When a moment of reflection allows one to realize that there exists only one love, one intelligence, and one power that can act, God has been inviting humanity for many centuries. One cannot serve two masters. Why? Because there is only one intelligence, one presence, one power that can act, and that presence is God in you. When you turn to the external manifestation and believe in the power of appearances, you are serving a false and usurping master that only finds an appearance in which to manifest because it contains God's energy, which it is misusing. The external expression of life is merely a constant and changing picture that the outer mind has created, pretending to be the true actor. The external attention, constantly fixed on external appearances, contains nothing but imperfections and is the cause of God's children forgetting their own divinity and having to return to it again. The true activity when we have reached this level of understanding is not to give quarter to external appearances. At this point, the student should constantly analyze the external, not to criticize it, but to be aware of what needs to be changed. I want to impress upon the minds of the students that it is foolish to allow oneself to be affected and disturbed by real or imaginary activities of the external consciousness. Once they know, I am the only all-powerful presence acting in my mind, my body, and my world, they will no longer be affected or disturbed by any associations of the external world. They must know that they are entirely immune to the discomforts and disturbances of the minds of others, no matter what they try to do to them. Do not accept any appearance simply because it is there or because it has the power to act upon your physical body. For you, if you realize this, can eliminate the power of any habit from your physical body and cause it to dissolve and disappear. Always learn to reverse everything that is contrary to perfect activity. Affirm, this is not true. I have what is perfect. Human effects or external discrepancies have nothing to do with the omnipresent perfection of God. All that is imperfect is merely the creation of the external human concept. Until these teachings manifest, human beings will continue to unconsciously accept 90% of the suggestions of those around them. Therefore, when you understand, remove your attention from the world of appearances and return it to the presence of life, you will have the perfection and intelligence of life flowing in and through your body with such a volume that you will be astonished to see that your life has flowed through your body for centuries without you knowing that you were the individual center of God, that you, through your physical body, were a focus of manifestation, and that until now you did not know that this great blessing could reach you. Divine adjustment. If at any time someone does something to take away what belongs to us, we have the right to decree in the name of the presence I am that the whole situation be resolved, or that what is ours be returned. When we put divine law into action and divine justice begins to manifest, we must be very careful not to fill ourselves with pity and interrupt the activity of the law. When human beings are completely governed by their outer self and do not think of the divine power that gives them life, they easily commit all kinds of injustices. But this does not mean that we will allow them to do so with us, especially when we know that we have the power of God to decree and demand order and justice everywhere. Rely on your secrets. You are not responsible for the lessons that individuals who have hurt you need to learn. So let them receive their lessons, and do not allow this to disturb you. Be dynamically aware of this. I am the pure mind of God in all who are present here. This leaves out human desire. Be aware of the following. I am the presence that governs. You cannot imagine, beloved student, what is on the periphery of your world, ready to manifest with dynamic power and give you that freedom and happiness that you have longed for. Ask to manifest in the expansion of this light, this power of life. I ask you to try it. You cannot harm yourself. Think, even for a moment, that this invocation to the presence of life can bring you something that is not good. As we said before, the manifestation will come if you love God enough. It cannot be avoided. It will strive to reach you if you desire God enough. The students who want it can take this now and stand firm. People revel in negative conditions instead of rising up and saying, I stand with God and refuse to be affected by this appearance. If we allow negative conditions to control us, not even God himself can help us find the cause. It has been proven in 1,000 ways that the effect of something cannot bring happiness. Only by understanding the cause that operates can an individual become the master or owner of his world. Each individual, knowing that he is the creator of his own world and of what he wishes to manifest in it, will understand that he has no time nor the right to create discordant things in the world of others. In this way, he will be free to encounter the effect of his own creation. If something disturbs you, the first thing is to calm yourself. Invoke the presence to show you the cause and take action. Tell the presence to reveal to you anything you want to know. For when you do not know the cause of a situation, many times your treatment is not enough. Can you answer me this? The answer that denotes the main cause may not be known to you externally. It is the lack of certainty in your feelings. When you clearly know the cause of something, feelings stop pressing. On the contrary, When you are not sufficiently sure of something, the complete discharge of the dynamic power that arises when one has certain knowledge of its origin does not occur. When this last happens, the dynamic application discharged is a power of intelligent, self-luminous substance. You end the cause or origin of something definitively, because your full power is directed toward the goal, or toward that which is generating it. That is why something can be stopped instantly. Do you realize the simplicity and majesty of these things? It is simply wonderful. 300 years after the ministry of Jesus, humanity returned to consider the effects instead of the causes, and for that reason, permanent assistance has not been able to be given. Now, thanks to the assistance that the cosmic cycle offers, it is possible to make human beings aware once again of the need to work with the cause, and thus the effect that has been put out of circulation will disappear. This is why the knowledge of the powers of the great I Am Presence is causing students to work only with the one and powerful presence whose cause is full perfection, and many of them are proving it. Let's suppose that in your life there are still limitations because you keep your attention on them, and you finally say, "Oh, why don't things change? I've been doing this for a long time." How do you know if 10 more minutes of effort wouldn't bring you victory? Look, you cannot judge it from the external point of view, but you will free yourself much more quickly if you refuse to have those feelings. Assume an indifferent attitude. I am determined to give you the necessary assistance to free you from those things you do not desire if you accept it. But if negative thoughts and feelings are recurrent, then decree that they have no power. Then return to your affairs. Soon you will realize that all those things dissolve just like the mist on a sunny morning, and you will begin to feel freedom, joy, strength, and courage within you. Remember that your firm and determined practice will explode every particle of human limitation that has ever been attracted around you. Today, once again, I urge you not to stop using the violet consuming flame to achieve this. You must invoke the presence with all determination and fervor at least twice a day. You may not realize as much as I do what this means and how quickly it can lead you to that freedom that will bring an immediate response to your requests and decrees. That is all you need to achieve that full confidence in yourself and in the law of life, which is freedom. Try to feel that you are a great source of blissful light that is pouring forth all the time, knowing that there is only one great intelligence, presence, and power of God acting through your mind and body. I rejoice because I am free, forever free from all limitations of the external world. I assure you that you currently have all the ability necessary to dissolve from your world everything that has limited and bound you in the past. You only need to invoke the presence of life. If you fully accept this in your intellect and in your feelings, you will take away power from the conditions that seem to have limited you in the past. You will not experience them again. As you try, be firm and have the determination to prove it, instead of letting the intellect discredit it. No one in the universe can discredit life, and that is all we are dealing with. That is what we are talking about. So when you understand this, you will no longer feel the human limitations of the senses that once disturbed you. You will find that with those simple words of invocation to your own powerful presence of God, I am, and without further understanding, you will attract the greatest perfection of life into your experience. By doing this, you will know that you have touched the fountain of life. Conscious guard. It is very important for sincere students to avoid disturbing and negative things because these let in undesirable elements that infiltrate unconsciously. When something cannot be avoided materially, the following affirmation must be made. I am the guardian presence that instantly consumes everything that seeks to disturb.